Welcome to Family Hour of the Yahowah vlog. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. We have a pretty complete cast of characters up there. I don't know what that background is. Kevin, where are you today? Where's Waldo?
This is Mount Moriah
Really?
at
So
night.
that's the view from Mount Moriah at night, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's
So
a live stream.
You're in Jerusalem. This is what we're going to be live streaming here in about 4 years.
Absolutely, we're going to have the best stream from Jerusalem. Yeah, absolutely.
We are. I don't know which service we're going to use or any service at all. It could just be Yahcam. Yahcam
Right?
on every cam. This would be really spectacular. I like that background for you. That's thinking ahead. And Kirk, you definitely look better than I think you feel. Ain't that the truth, huh? Dr. Jeff, what's happening, man?
We're just chilling out, and basically the grill is going to chill and keep out of trouble and enjoy the Shabbat.
The grill is going to chill. Absolutely. And you're at home, so this is nice. You're not going to be called in to save somebody's life today.
No. It'll be somebody else dealing with it.
Excellent. JB, you're in a stormy night. I understand that you are under a tornado watch even.
Yeah, till 10 o'clock tonight. Although if you work looking outside right now, it's clear as day. So.
Oh, okay. So your conclusion is that brains are awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wish everyone had one.
You know, what's the sense of being a geek if you can't act like one, right?
Yep.
I am all for that. I completely agree. And Will, what's going on in your world?
Not a whole lot. Real busy today, but I was able to prepare a little bit for the show, do a little reading and reciting. It's I think it goes a little better if you prime the pump beforehand a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I sent you the update. It's, boy, I tell you what, in about 3 or 4 shows, when we get to the there's an interesting narrative in there that I think is going to blow everybody away. It's been a pretty interesting day today as I tracked down the evidence in favor of something that I was inspired to see, and we'll get there in a few days. We have Perry here. He'll be in and out of the Leah chair, so that those who don't know, but our little Cara, who is this guy's right here's girlfriend, mail order bride. So you did it through. You came from East Texas, I think. She came from, what was it, Arkansas? I think. Anyway, she was spayed over yesterday, and so she's a little sore and tender, and so Leah slept or didn't sleep, but hung out with her on the floor, trying to get her through the night because she does not do pain well, and Leah doesn't do. I didn't sleep at all during the night very well. So Perry may slip into the Leah seat sometime during the program. What we're going to go to today is the website, and in just a moment I'll begin talking about it. But before we do, I think we do need to address the realization of what's happening in Israel with the Iran War 2.0. It really is a exceedingly sad situation from my perspective. What's happening? I not that I have any influence in Israel at this point. That's going to change, but I begged Israel not to do this. There was nothing to be gained and so much to lose. And Israel was belligerent. They went in and assassinated not only a leader of a country, but the religious leader of the country. Rather than prompting the regime change they thought that they were going to get because the Mossad and CIA sponsored protests in Iran. You could just tell from the protests. You didn't have to be a genius to recognize that, they had 1,000 here, a few thousand there. But when there were pro-government protests or rallies, there were hundreds of thousands to 1 million people that would show up for those. And I've studied the history of revolutions in nations, and after a while you find common denominators. And while it is possible with as few as 3 to 5% of a population being in revolt to take over the country. It happened in the Russian Revolution, where only 3.5%, 4% of the nation was actually in favor of Lenin and the socialists, but they were belligerent, they were armed, they were deadly, they were ruthless. And so they took over a country where the rest of the people were fairly apathetic. The same thing is true in Nazi Germany. Initially, the brown shirts and Adolf Hitler's Klan were 3.5%, 4%, 5% of Nazi Germany, but they were so ruthless, so belligerent that they took over the rest of the country. So it is possible with that smaller percentage. Even if you, thank you, Wookie. Let's see if we can undo what you just did. Wookie stepped right on the keyboard of the computer that we're going to use later on to do this program. Okay, Wookie, you're done. Okay, there you go, pal. All righty. So that's the end of the Wookiee. So no more participation from him. He's got other things to do. His girlfriend is back from the hospital, and he wants to be there beside her, I suppose. We even had a Wookiee. This is Wookiee's drink glass so that he could have his without him
his own
without him drinking my my cappuccino. So there you go. See you later, Wook. And there's a lot of reasons that I begged Israel not to do it. And one was that I knew there was zero chance under the circumstances that we were watching, there was going to be regime change. And, listen, I think I've had as big an influence as anybody can have on Iran. When I wrote Prophet of Doom, by far the highest readership per capita was in Iran. Knew nothing anywhere close to it. And I got constant emails from Iranians saying that book changed their lives. And we went from a situation where about 95% of Iranians viewed themselves as Shia Muslims to, if you take internal polls of Iranians now, it's only about 40% that perceive themselves to be Shia Muslims. And Prophet of Doom made a huge difference in all of that. So I've had an influence there. But I knew that every time there had been protests in Iran, that nothing materialized of them for numbers of reasons. One is that the protesters are not, I'm not advocating they be ruthless, but I'm just telling you that if you have a small percentage in the 3 to 5% that are protesting, if they're passive, you have no chance of prevailing. Now, there have been protests where the protesters were peaceful and they prevailed, like Gandhi in India, but he didn't have 3 to 5% of the population behind him. Yeah. He had, 60 to 70%, maybe 80% of the population behind him. And under those circumstances, peaceful protests prevail. But that is anywhere close to what happened in any one of the protests throughout Iran over the last decade in particular. And every time they've happened, everybody jumps up and down and says, this is it. The regime is done. I'm saying, no, the regime's not done. And that was part of it. The other half of it is that if you're going to have a successful protest, you have to have an alternative. Mm-hmm. You have to have something you can rally around. It can't just be, we don't want what we have. It has to be, we don't want what we have because we want this alternative. There is no alternative in Iran. They absolutely don't want to go back to the monarchy. The Shah is not the answer. Donald Trump says, I won't pick the future leader of Iran, but only after they have unconditional surrender. Boy, he is absolutely living in his own mind, and that's a really scary place because neither of those two things are going to happen. But there isn't anybody for them to rally around. There's no alternative to what they have. There's no secular alternative, and the religious alternatives in the Islamic world always make a situation worse. And that was the third point I was saying. That so number one, they don't have the numbers. I mean, not even close. They're by a factor of 10. They don't have the numbers to prevail in a protest for regime change. Number two, they don't have an identity to rally around, which is absolutely necessary to have regime change. And there isn't in Iran any possibility that you're going to bomb them into compliance. When you bomb people, they have a tendency to hate you. And when your first day of bombing kills over 100 little schoolgirls, they hate you a lot. And so you are absolutely not going to engender yourself to the Iranians by bombing them. And the last people on earth that Muslims, even if they are even secularist Marxists, are going to embrace is, oh boy, we really love those Jews. They're so good to us. We'll join the Jews. We'll be partners with them. This was completely delusional. And then the fourth issue is that look at the history of CIA and Mossad-sponsored regime change. How did it work out in Libya?
It's a disaster.
How did it work out in Iraq? How did it work out the last time in Iran that we did it? Just staying at home in Iran. How did it work out in Afghanistan when we did it? How did it work out in Iraq when we did it? How did it work out in Somalia and in the Sudan?
Syria.
Every time we've done it, it's been worse. And so there is no history of a favorable regime change. Look at Syria. We went from a really hideous guy and Assad to the Islamic State, for crying out loud. When are people going to wake up and say, oh, my regime change in the Islamic world is a really bad idea? And so there was a 0% chance they were going to get that. Now, if you're not going to get that, how do you win? How does bombing cause you to win in a country the size of Iran, which is the size of Western Europe, with almost 100 million people? What are you going to do? You're going to bomb the whole country into oblivion? You can't do that.
No.
Are you going to take out Tehran so it becomes a parking lot? Are you going to kill 3, 4, 5 million people? No, you can't do that either. What are you going to do? You can't turn it into Gaza. And that didn't work for you either. There is no way to prevail. You cannot bomb a country into submission. It's just not going to happen. And you don't understand the mentality of Shia Muslims. They want to be martyrs. They are not going to capitulate to you.
And Iran is particularly difficult terrain to deal with. It's almost impossible to invade them. They're in a bowl. They have mountains to one side, and it's just very, very unfriendly terrain. And that was part of the issue that Iraq had with the Iraq-Iran war. But that's a tough one.
Well, that's very close to being accurate. There's not mountains on one side. There's mountains on 3 sides. And the only place where there's not mountains is in the due south. And if you came up from the due south, you know how far you'd have to march before you got to Tehran? Yeah. And how many other ranges you'd have to cross? And it's impossible. So you can't do a military action with boots on the ground. And even if you tried, it would be the immediate destruction of the United States. We couldn't support it in any which way, nor morally justify it. It wasn't morally justifiable. And so there was 0 way to prevail. The last time Trump was so insistent that he took out their entire nuclear program and to set them back decades in terms, obliterated, he said. And I had studied the satellite photos, and I told you that, no, I have absolute 100% confidence that he didn't even damage it. That 100% of Iran's 60+% of fissile purity uranium still exists, and that they could complete a bomb really at any time of their choosing. It wouldn't even take them 2 weeks to, if their tritium stockpile is around, it's about 40 bombs that they could create, depending on the yield, and half that number if they don't have their tritium stockpile. And that's been the case now for some time, and yet he claimed the otherwise. And then when you have this pretext of we're negotiating, and your negotiating text is you will destroy all of your missiles, you will become defenseless, you will give all of that uranium that you crippled your country for 20 years from sanctions to enrich, and you're going to give it all to us, not to a neutral party, not to Russia. You're going to give it to us. Not you're not going to make any more. You're going to give it all to us, and you will not enrich anything even to 3% fissile purity going forward. I mean, come on. You will not fund any of your Islamic buddies and other places in the world. So you'll stop being a Muslim. I mean, come on. It was utterly stupid. There is no way to win that war. And if there is a battle between missile and interceptor, there's no way to win that. It's impossible to win a war between missile and interceptor. The interceptor always loses even when it prevails. What do I mean by that? Typically, it's 2 interceptors per missile shot down. The interceptors, depending on which variety they are, run from $150,000 at the lowest end and the Iron Dome upwards to Thad, or like $15, $18 million a missile. And the missiles that they're shooting down run anywhere from drones at $5,000 up to $20,000 for a drone, and then missiles anywhere from $500,000 to a couple of $1 million. You will always, economically, you lose 100% of the time in that war. And then there's also the problem of the interceptors are in low supply, and in 2 weeks' time, you could go through the entire supply of interceptors, and it would take years to reestablish a new supply. All the while, here come the missiles. So why would you do that? And then you have a tiny little country where 70% of your population is around Tel Aviv, and you're fighting a country that's the size of Western Europe. How are you going to prevail in that kind of a scenario? I mean, it just was utterly stupid. And then, of course, the first thing they're going to do is close the Gulf of Hormuz, and which is going to take oil from what was $50 a barrel, now upwards of $100 a barrel. Within 2 weeks, it's going to be $150 a barrel.
Sure.
Oh, were you out of your mind? You're going to cripple the world economically. And then, Iran has taken 3/4 of their missiles, and they have shot them at America's allies in the Middle East that are not Israel. I mean, 3/4 of those missiles have gone to places like Bahrain. You know why they're going to Bahrain? Because that's where the Fifth Fleet is. That's where almost all of the America's coordinated assets are. The first day they took out our primary defense systems in terms of the radar systems for THAAD and guidance. I mean, this was so stupid, and every aspect of this was knowable before the war started. The only thing that I missed is I told Israel that because of the fact that in the last war, they took a favorable Israeli party and a neutral Israeli party, and we turned them both into enemies. And they now happen to be 2 of the 3 most powerful countries on Earth. The economic engine of the planet, and probably the most sophisticated military on the planet at this point. Prior to attacking Iran, Israel had a very good relationship with Russia. The Russians always listened. They made accommodations. Not anymore. Now Russia views Israel as an enemy. And because of the fact that Russia has been forced into accommodating Iran because of U.S. sanctions, and because Israel has sided with the Ukraine against Russia in that war. And China went from Israel's second largest trading partner, very close to the United States, and the operator of its ports and a number of other things that are really huge with China, and turned China into an overt enemy because it gets 40% of its oil from Iran. And so you turn those 2 countries into enemies. That's really stupid. That means that now you're a vassal of Donald J. Trump, which is what Netanyahu achieved. And Donald J. Trump, as we proved in this last program, is Rahab. He is the great betrayer. He is Satan incarnate. No question about it. The prophets have spoken. They're never wrong. Israel has become a vassal of Satan. as a result of turning the rest of the world against it. And they already had antagonized the world to the point of complete isolation because of the destruction of Gaza. Now, I will never say destruction of Gaza in a vacuum. The Muslims antagonized them into that war on October 7th. But the response was not smart. The response actually was suicidal for Israel. Destroying Gaza destroyed Israel. And so you can't follow that up after you've destroyed Gaza with starting another war against Iran and bombing its capital. Everybody that's anybody is condemning Israel. This was utterly suicidal with what they did. So I begged them not to do it. And now here they are spending their nights in bomb shelters, and they're under the attack of cluster bombs. I don't know if you've seen those, the cluster munitions, but oh my God. And that was foreseeable. I mean, the Houthis shot cluster munitions. I've posted the pictures of the Houthis cluster munitions. It's the same ones. And you can't say, well, this is, uncivilized and in vile war crime, because guess what the United States did in Afghanistan and Iraq? Tons and tons of cluster munitions against civilians. So, you put it all together, and it's a pretty damn big mess that they made. And now Trump is saying that, he wants to negotiate an end to the war. And then, and that's one statement. The next statement is, I will only accept unconditional surrender.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I had not seen is there's two things I did not see. One is I expected China and Russia to engage in the defense of Iran, and they didn't. And so I'm saying, why? And I think that the answer is fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
They've already negotiated deals with Bahrain and UAE and Kuwait and Qatar and Saudi Arabia to do business with them in terms of oil and gas. And they recognize that if the United States destroys itself over the Iranian war, it's a double win, because they not only kick the United States out of its bases in the Middle East because of all of this, prove the United States is a villain and can't be trusted, which is exactly what they want, but they destroy the petrodollar because none of these nations are going to honor the petrodollar anymore. And they move in as part of BRICS into all of these relationships. It is advantageous for China and Russia to sit it out. Russia now has oil, which runs its economy, selling at 3 times what it previously was. And now as a source that the world needs, because it ain't coming from the Middle East. So it played right into Russia's hands, and it played right into China's hands. And so they were better off sitting on
if there's no Iranian boogeyman,
Yeah.
then Saudi Arabia doesn't need any treaty with the United States. That's the only.
That is correct.
That's
correct.
Craig, you basically have the Russians and the Chinese playing chess, and you have a megalomaniacal Rahab who is delusional and is a cognitive dissonance on steroids. Couple that with abject mendacity. Absolute mendacity, and you have the situation that you have, and then you have Netanyahu, who is just an obsequious, subservient lackey, and yet the anti-Semites in the world are basically thinking that Netanyahu is running Trump.
That's exactly the opposite.
Yeah,
Trump is playing Netanyahu. He's going to drop him like a hot potato, though.
Now
the second thing I did not see is that I will acknowledge that Persians are bright. The average Muslim IQ, Arab Muslim, Fakistanian Muslims, really low, in the 60s and upwards into 70, really, really low. But Persians are bright. They have a long heritage of education and invention. The Persians are really bright. And so the Ayatollah, guess what? He did what the Russians did. It's called the dead hand. You familiar with anyone of you familiar with the Russian dead hand?
Yeah.
You know what that is?
They fire the bombs no matter what. He's gone.
It means if you do a decapitation strike against the Russian leadership, thinking without the leadership that the country will surrender, all of their nuclear arsenal automatically fires. No one can stop it. It's called the dead hand switch. All right. So why does that relate to Iran? Do you know?
Still doing it, shooting them off.
No. Because the Ayatollah set himself up to die. He let him know where he was. He expected to die. He's 87 years old. He's going to die soon anyway. He let himself become a martyr before he did that. He wrote the dead hand switch for Iran. He told every operator in the government and in the military of Iran, these are your orders. They do not change under any circumstance. This is what happens when they kill me. This is what you do. It is the dead hand switch. Not only is there no one to negotiate a surrender with, which will not happen, or even a ceasefire with, there's no stopping the war. He made certain that if the U.S. attacks, Iran wins, and he knew that Iran would win, that the U.S. bases would be unusable, that the petrodollar would crash, that he would destroy Israel. And so he outsmarted everybody. He set himself up to die with a dead hand. You got played again, Israel, just like you got played on October 7th. I know that sounds terrible. They came in, the Muslims did, and they raped you, and they plundered you, and they committed acts of mass murder, screaming Allahu Akbar. They did it to play you. The purpose was to get you to attack and destroy Gaza, because when you did that, they could isolate you from the rest of the world and claim that you were crazy and genocidal, and their plan worked. They have average IQs that are sub 60. Yours are average above 115, and they played you, and you lost. And now you did it again in Iran. Maybe it's time for a new leader, Israel. What are your thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, Israel's not going to.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Kirk, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, we have been here a long time and know the script. We know what you've said. We know what Yahweh said, what the prophets have said. So it's not a surprise. We were anticipating a lot of this. You told them what to do when they invaded, when the Gazans decided to come and invade, and they said, I thought that was brilliant. I said, just hold hostage to their temple and their thing on Mount Moriah and just blow the sucker up.
Yeah, I gave them a five-point plan on the morning of October 7th, 2023. I composed what was a 100-page open letter at war with religion to Israel, told them exactly who their enemy was and who the enemy was not, and precisely how they could conduct themselves to prevail. And in addition to telling them what they could do to prevail, which would have worked, I told them what they were going to do and why it would fail. And I did it all on October 7th of 2023. And if you want to read it, it's all there for you to read in volume 1 of Goddamn Religion. Go to YadaYah.com, go down to the bottom, you'll find the Goddamn Religion series, open bottom, volume 1. Go to the At War with Religion chapter. That is that open letter. It tells Israel exactly what you needed to do to prevail after Alaska flood and why that would work and what you I predicted everything that Israel would do and why it would fail. And guess what? All turned out that way, didn't it?
You know what's distressing, Craig? You know what's very distressing is that the Muslim world, using the face of the Hamas, used with their low IQ the Khaybar paradigm, whereas Yehudim, with their lofty IQs, got played again and out-cerebrated by the Persians.
Yeah, you know, the interesting thing is that in goddamn religion, I cover every moment of Muhammad's life. Every moment. I set everything he said and did into the context of the Quran. I reorder the Quran chronologically, and I set it into the context of Muhammad's life using the Hadith. And one of the most vivid episodes is Kabar. When we started the Yahowah blog, it was one of the first programs I did. And today, around the world, Kabar Yahud. They're reminiscing of Kabar. October 7th was Kabar. It was an early morning attack by Muslims against a farming community of Jews. It was the first time that the prayer of fear was uttered, Allahu Akbar, meaning that Allah is greater than the God of the Jews, Yahowah. And every aspect of it, the murders, the tortures, the rapes, the plunder, every aspect of it was identical. And yet, because of the universal ignorance of Jews to their enemy, they not only let it happen, they watched it happen, they were paralyzed as it happened, and they've had no clue how to respond to it since. This is where we are. This is why we're 70 some odd days from the time of Israel's troubles, and there's no solution at hand because Israel didn't listen. And Israel might say, who are you? You're a goy living in an island in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. We've got our IDF, we have our Mossad, we have our Shin Bet, we have our IDF intelligence, we have our political parties. We have a country where every man and woman serves in the military. We live in the midst of this. Who in the hell are you to tell us what to do? How's it working out for you?
Yeah. They low YadaYah. Low YadaYah.
Yeah. And let me just give you a clue. There's over 1,000 references to the role I am playing and throughout the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. It's all there. It begins in the Torah. Why don't you look up Ha-Nakri and figure out who the Nakri is, the observant foreigner. Why don't you read the book of Isaiah and figure out who that Choder is, who the man from Edom is. Yeah, it's all there for you. And that's why you should listen. I know your God, you don't. I speak for your God, you won't even listen to him. This is the difference. I know what the prophets say, you don't.
I want to pull my hair out of my head when I hear this, because this is the fruit of, Bakachba and Akiba, and that even the non-religious secular Yehudim have been so tainted and influenced that it's closed off the minds and eyes of any rational thinking Jew.
Correct. Yeah, Jews have completely isolated and estranged themselves from Yahowah, both as Marxists and as Haredi. And so it's not just the fringe 20% progressive Marxist socialist Jews, which are anti-Yahowah, don't even care anything about God, and the Haredi that are antagonizing God, that are God's biggest enemy. Because that 60% of the middle is all tainted by them. I mean, they're celebrating Purim. Why don't you find Purim for me in the Torah? Please. Queen. And they're looking forward to celebrating Passover as a 7-day holiday. Why don't you tell me where it says that Passover is 7 days? It's Chag Matzah that's 7 days. Passover just happens to be the first day of Chag Matzah. Why don't you tell me about the rabbinic celebration of Chag Matzah while we're here? They have any clue what it means? They celebrate Passover as if Passover was their freedom from slavery in Egypt. No, it wasn't. They didn't go anywhere on Passover. Open the door to life. Matzah is the separation from and escape from religious and political corruption. You have no idea what Bikuwrym is. You don't even celebrate it. You've got, absolutely clueless. You have no idea what Shabbat is, but you celebrate Purim. You celebrate Hanukkah. Why don't you find Hanukkah for me in the Torah and prophets, please? Give you all day.
Look,
You won't. You celebrate Rosh Hashanah, for crying out loud. Why don't you find Rosh Hashanah for me in the Torah and prophets? You claim that you're Torah observant, you find it for me. Because it's not there. You tell me why you celebrate Yom Kippur as singular as opposed to Kippurim, when God always says it's plural, and you make it a day of atonement, of self
Affliction.
denial. What doesn't it mean reconciliation? Why would you deny yourself on a day that God has said this is the day to reconcile a relationship? You screwed up Sukah to the point that you think it's about building little huts for you to hang out during the day, so you can pretend to be religious and be seen, as opposed to a return to the garden, even though that's what the prophets say. You don't care what the prophets say. You erased Yahweh's name. You're waiting for an unknown Messiah to come on an unknown date when the actual Messiah is known. And Yahweh says, I anointed him and I'm bringing him back as king of the world. And that the date is known. It's October 2nd, sunset in Jerusalem, 2033, Yom Kippurim. And you're clueless to all of this. How come I know it and you don't know any of it? Why do you think that Maimonides got the calendar right when he was serving Saladin, when he was based it on the Quranic magic number of 19 and the sanctification of the moon? He's 197 years off, and he didn't even start it on the right event. He started it on creation, which means he's 14 billion years off. And you're still presenting the Rambam's calendar. Good God, you're lost. That's why you go off and believe a political leader like Netanyahu, who is nothing but a warmonger and destroyed Israel in the process.
Yeah. It's absolute Torah. It's Torah illiteracy, Talmud observancy, and basically the words of Hosea 4:6 have never rang truer. I mean, it is in their face, and they just are oblivious.
My people are destroyed because they're stupid.
lack of knowledge.
Yeah, that's basically what.
So he said lack
It's a
of knowledge.
paraphrase.
What's the difference? What is their difference? My people are destroyed because they're ignorant, because they're irrational.
Yes.
That's what he said.
You know,
And he says, because you ignore my Torah, because they have labeled their Talmud Torah and they prefer theirs, he says, I'm going to ignore your children. And then after telling Hosea to marry a religious whore, he says, now we're writing a letter so that you understand and you can empathize with my situation with Israel being a religious whore. I'm divorcing Israel. I'm out of here. And I'm not going to return to Israel until Israel returns to me.
That's right.
And that isn't going to happen for another 7 years. So there's individual hope. There is no national hope for Israel. It's going to be really bleak over this time.
May I ask something?
Mm-hmm.
I've been probably more saddened and depressed almost lately because of all the events and everything, even though I know they're all coming and I've studied it for 20 years. So and I was talking to Sylvia, who has two very Jewish sons who happen not to be religious or political. And there's hope for them, and we want them to be with the family at some point. But we've kind of reached a point now where, and I think even you alluded to it, that it's not much chance we're going to reach anyone who's not already engaged at some level now, until we return and the Spirit delivers this future family at that period, because they just have to have so much pressure to do anything, because logic doesn't appeal to them at all. They just won't look.
I've shared with you the dead hand.
Yeah.
There's a thing called a live hand. It's the hand of Yahweh.
Yes.
And it's pretty astute in the way that it guides. Sometimes the one that it's guiding doesn't pick up on it as quickly as he should, but sometimes people around him pick up on it a little faster than he does. In the case, the guy with the nifty gray beard at the top, he was the one that picked up on it sooner than the rest of us. What he recognizes, there is no point to try to invite anybody now into the Shabbat harvest. Not enough time for them to learn, process the information, accept it, not only respond to it and engage, but demonstrate they can be trusted. God is not going to harvest anybody that he can't trust, period. End of conversation. Not going to happen, because there's just too much that goes along with it. Too much power, too much enrichment, too much liberation. God's got to be able to trust those people, and he can't. There's no way anybody can come to speed in the amount of time we have left. Even if it's a year and 2 months away, or if it's just 2.5 months away. So we aren't doing that anymore. And I noticed that on X and on Facebook that we were using to reach out to new people, flatlined. There is absolutely no chance we're going to increase the number of people that are part of the Shabbat harvest, nor should we even try.
Yeah.
Our purpose is to build the absolute best repository of books and vlogs and tools that are absolutely possible to be here while we're gone and to reference when we return and then use during the millennial Shabbat. The website that we're going to go and examine here in a moment, it is specifically being built for that purpose. It is to equip those of us who are already covenant and have a responsibility going forward to be better stewards of that responsibility. And then to be the thing that we point to when somebody, when YadaYah and I are talking from the Temple Mount, we're not going to give them the short version. We're not going to give them a personally crafted story of what they should accept and how they should respond. We're going to tell them to go read, go listen, go learn. And if you don't have the want to, you're not willing to do that, then go away. That's just it.
Three and a half years of that. Yep.
Right. So they have 3.5 years to come up to speed. And those with come up to speed in 3.5 years and then prove themselves over that period of time, they'll be part of the Towrah gleaning. And all the rest, our emphasis is to do what I had a lovely conversation with Joe. His children are not covenant, and he loves his family, he loves his children, and he loves his extended family and his parents, none of which are covenant. However, none of which are religious. And so they also have Jewish DNA. I said, well, then you're in exactly the perfect place, because that is the whole purpose of Towrah and God bringing everyone who is both Goyim and Jewish, who is not overtly religious, who can benefit from the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah, and who can grow and prove themselves during that 1,000-year celebration of Sukah. So that is the answer, and that's what we're attempting to do, is to cultivate that opportunity and for us to be as effective stewards as is possible with this responsibility. That's who we are. That's what we're doing. That's why we're going to go through the website as it is now, and then we're going to talk about the website as it will be going forward, because that is that's our home, and it's important that we know that. And I've talked about this in a number of programs. I could not be happier with the frustration that we have experienced and the hostile environment, the hatred really that we have on X and Facebook, where Grok literally despises what we have to say on X and makes certain that no matter how many posts you have, no one will see them. And no matter how many people you're following, you will never see their posts. They have turned X into a total waste of time, but it's worse than that. It's like diving into a cesspool while accomplishing nothing. You can't even tread water in that cesspool. And on Facebook, completely ruined. Can't say anything. They've set up a system where they feed you bad material, all manner of images that are faked, statements that are untrue. And when you comment and said, this is untrue, this is faked, then they flag your account for passing on that which is untrue and faked. It's a lose-lose scenario. So, but it's okay. In fact, it's better than okay, because there was no advantage of being there other than in both places amongst the covenant family, we had communication, and it's nice to be able to communicate one another with one another in covenant. So we're going to replicate the communication ability on the website. We're going to have a better version of X and Facebook on our website for our family, and it doesn't exist for anyone else. That's the purpose of it. And it's to equip us, and you'll be able to take the images. You want to solicit a friend, and the invitations that are there, the posts that are there, you'll be able to click on any of them, save them, attach them, send them to friends, whatever you want to do with it, and reach out that way, or invite people to the site. So there is that is where we're headed, and it makes so much more sense to be there and not throwing our pearls before swine. One of the challenges on being on X and Facebook is you are surrounded by so much disgusting material from the conspiratorialists, from the Twistians, from the MAGAites, from the Marxists, from the Muslims, that when you realize that you're surrounded, from the anti-Semites, that you are surrounded by so much hostility, that one of the responsibilities to be part of the covenant family and be with Yahowah is when you're surrounded by hostility and it enters your presence, you have to respond to it. That is our responsibility. And so when somebody says, Jesus is the Lord, I got to say, no, Jesus never existed. He is nothing but a crude counterfeit and a complete and utter fraud. And so you have to respond to it, but why? What's the point? Because the person you're responding to is not going to accept the truth, and it has no value. So we just need to get out, and the getting is good, and so we're going to continue to use the sites like YouTube, Rumble, and others, where we can present long form videos and also shorts, and our shorts are going to be for those sites to use as promos and to attract an audience. That's the purpose of the shorts, is to longs never go viral, but a short can. Is we use the shorts to go viral on those kind of accounts, and we use the longs to educate on those accounts, and then we can bring for the family all of that experience to the website. So that's the plan going forward, and I'm certain that it's the right one, and I'm very comfortable with it. In fact, I don't think I've ever been more relaxed in the whole situation that I'm in, because it's just a perfect scenario for us at the absolute right time. Kevin, you were going to say something earlier, and you surrendered the floor to Kirk.
Sorry.
No. Oh, we were way past that. But Netanyahu's not going to step down. He's in the same position Trump is. If he's not the prime minister of Israel, he goes to jail. So there's no way that he's stepping down. He's also ready to bomb Khan Yunis, I think, Beirut. He wants to destroy it like they did Khan Yunis in Gaza. He has openly said that that's what they're going to do. Which is, how do you double down on that insanity? Absolute, yeah.
By being possessed.
Absolute insanity. Yeah, they're bombing Beirut, and while bombing Iran, and because Iran doesn't have air defenses, it's no really different than bombing Gaza into oblivion. I mean, everybody is coming to hate Israel, and Israel saying, "Oh boy, we're protecting the world from these terrorists." There's no such thing as a terrorist. A terrorist is a tactic. You're either fighting the source, the cause of that tactic, or you're fighting a symptom.
It's not.
You don't
not terrorism.
you don't
it's Islam.
malaria by taking down the fever. That's a symptom. You know, can't throw water on it, cold water, and thinking, well, I'm going to take down the fever. That'll sure cure the malaria. That's like what it is to say I'm against terrorists. It's a tactic. It's not an entity. So it is a very sad situation they're in. I think I also stepped on you one time, Will, when you were going to make a point. Did you recall what it was, or did I talk too long?
Well, going back a little bit, just with China and Russia, I think what the plan with that is they are just, you know, I don't know what the axiom is and where it's from, but, you know, never get in the way when your enemy's destroying himself. And so they are content to sit back and watch Donald and Bibi mismanage all this. They will mismanage it. There's just no question about it. And so there's probably nothing left in Iran that they really want to save, and so they'll wait.
Yes.
You know,
I think it's like what China and Russia did with Venezuela. There was no reason to intervene. The United States accomplished nothing. We kidnapped a head of state. We played pirate on some tankers. We don't control Venezuela. We don't occupy Venezuela, and we're getting nothing from Venezuela. And they said, oh, go ahead, let the United States destroy its reputation in the world. All they're doing is proving that they can't be trusted.
Yeah.
And in fact, the Supreme Court just told Trump he has to repay the tariff that he's collected. Man. And then you had all the Republican senators actually vote in favor of this war. They own it. They own it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially your ex friend there, Lindsey Graham.
He's not my ex-friend. My friend was his partner, who I knew before he did the stupidity in Ukraine. I knew John McCain quite well. We were good friends.
I misspoke.
I mean that I support what John McCain did in Ukraine. I think that was hideous, and millions of lives have been lost. Lindsey Graham, I've always thought is a skunk. I think that he is the devil's advocate.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me. I will say that the website now, what Joe has done is beyond amazing, and that this is a legacy and a conduit to life, eternal life. For those who are willing to take the narrow path, do the work, and open their eyes. It's there. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah, I think so too. JB, you were making a comment?
I just said the Republicans have never met a war they didn't like.
You know, I'm going to correct you too, just as I did JB, and I'm or Dr. Jeff, and Dr. Jeff, your point was correct that Lindsey Graham is a snake, and that was your point. He's just not my friend. He's just a snake. The interesting thing is, if you study American history, it has typically been Democrats that get us into wars and Republicans that get the U.S. out of wars. Trump has certainly flipped that considerably, where now he is engaging the world in war, and there is no way out of this one. He's trying to sue for a ceasefire while he's saying, I'm demanding unconditional surrender. Now, he's egomaniacal enough, JB, that he could create his scenario by himself saying that he's surrendering on behalf of Iran. Yeah, he would think so, and that he is appointing the new leader of Iran, and at the same time declare that he has solved yet another war. This will be the 9th war that he has solved. Well, he surrenders on behalf of them. But I think he's that.
If at first you don't succeed, just redefine success.
Yeah, it is. It is an exceedingly sad overall situation. But yeah, the history has actually been that the two things that you would think would be different, but they are true. That it's typically Democrats that get America into war, and it's Republicans that get America out of war. Now that's not consistent. George W. Bush and both George Bush 1 and 2 turned out to be warmongers, and the wars they fought were exceedingly counterproductive and made things much worse. Bad situations turned much worse, and Trump has been the same way. So recently, it has definitely changed, and I don't think there is a Republican Party anymore. I think even to use the term Republican is misguided. There are MAGAs, and there are people who once thought themselves to be conservative that have no say, and they have no party. And the only reason the MAGA survives is that the Democrats have gone so socialistic, so Marxist, and so out of touch with the world, much less America, that they aren't a challenge to the idiocy of MAGA. So we're in quite a the United States is in quite a fix, and the biggest issue right now is that I think that the war that we're fighting, that the United States is fighting with Iran, is going to have devastating impact on the petrodollar and on the U.S. economy. Without the petrodollar, the United States can't fund its debt. It's 38 trillion in debt nationally, and there are no takers for the bonds. And the only way that we create the illusion of solvency is that the quantitative easing, which is to create the illusion of money, simply to inflate the money supply, that gets lost when people need to own dollars. They suck up those imaginary printed money for trade. But the United States position as a reserve currency is dwindling very rapidly. And now it hinges strictly on the petrodollar. And Saudi Arabia already made a deal to sell oil to its largest customer, China, in yuan, and is an unofficial member of BRICS. And this war will push Saudi Arabia over the edge. So it was devastating economically to America. All of these nations. Look at Kuwait. They shot down 3 American F-15s.
Right.
I mean, they shot down 3 American F-15s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was an accident. Okay, yeah, sure. By the way, with American Patriot missiles.
Mm-hmm.
Not so
You can't
friendly
make this.
fire.
Yeah, you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah. It's
Pretty sad. All right, what I'd like to do is, I think when we're doing this, unfortunately, your handsome faces are going to be covered up for a moment. You can still chime in, and I want you to chime in. So please talk over me as even I'm doing the narrative. But we're going to go take a look at the website. I want to walk people through our future home. And so, Rich, if you wouldn't mind, let's take us to the website. There is a little Craig is better than a big Craig. So that's already. Oh boy, we got a massive though. Kevin image. Here we go. We'll get this here in a
Rich,
moment.
you don't have the
maybe.
media up. You need the media share
did.
page. Okay, sorry, I just don't see it in the back.
Just it disappeared.
Okay, we'll see if we can get
There we
this going here in just a moment. All right. This is, as of today, the YadaYah website. And as you can see, we have new categories here. We're going to add a number of categories additional to this, but let me just talk about, and we'll go to, and we'll explore some of these things in a moment. You see there's a vlog category that didn't used to be there. There's an invite category that didn't used to be there. Soon, there is going to be a chat category, a chat link that's going to replicate the experience on X and on Facebook without the cesspool. So we'll be able to communicate with one another through it, and we're going to add an Ask Yada, which is an AI search. I think it's going to be coordinated through Claude. Rich and Joe are working on that, so that we'll have an AI capability within the site, and there's a series of other things that are being added here, but a lot of new functionality coming. So let's just kind of walk through some of these. Let's click on books if you could, Maestro. All right. So on the books, you can just thumb down and we'll come back up to the top. You can see that every book here, all 35 of them are presented. And on each book, you'll see that there's a little book. And but if you just mouse over the book itself, it expands. It's a 3-dimensional version of the book. It expands. If you clicked on that, you would actually go to the page turner book. You can click on one. We'll just show you how that works. You go to the page turner book. Once you go over to the page turn on the far right, over my image. Yeah, click that a few times. Yep, there you go. Click one more time. There you go. So there you are starting the book. And over here, if you wanted to go to a particular chapter, you could. And down below, we're going to do a program with Joe here and within the next month, where he's going to explain every one of those features at the bottom. But typically on these kinds of things, you can't copy and paste material. We've made that possible. We've made it possible for you to have a bookmark. We've made it possible for you to go to a print function, a search function. So many other options are available to you, and you can change the text size. There's so many things you can do, and we will expand that capability. Let's go back to the menorah on that side there. Menorah will, okay, that'll take you back. So this is the site. You can also click on one of the Amazon links there. Takes you right to that series on Amazon. You can purchase the book if you want to buy it on Amazon. So you can read it free with the page turner in its entirety. Let's go back again. But this takes you directly to Amazon. And then that bottom link, that's the sign of a PDF. You click on the PDF, and it brings you to a PDF of the book, which is the old way that they were all presented. And so in this version, you can just go through the entire book on your phone or on a computer, or however you want to go, and you're reading the book as a PDF. So all three ways to read through the books. Let's go back to the homepage. All right, let's go to the top of the book section again. Now you see this search within the books. Let's put in something. How about Towrah? Put in Towrah. W.
20 A's.
It's Tauwah. Tauwah. Towrah. That's the Mow'ed Mikre. Look what happens now. Let's not, rather than in all books, put series YadaYah over there where it says series.
I'm working at two different.
Pardon?
It's me.
So right above there you go, YadaYah, and now search. So this is all the references to Towrah. There's 680 of them just in the YadaYah series. There's 28 pages. Just go down the page so people have a chance to see. And you can click on the volume there or on the particular page. It'll take you to that volume or to that page. If you were to do that, we won't do that at this point. We'll do it when we're with Joe navigating this. But this is all 680 references to Towrah. And if you spelled it with the apostrophe or without it, it has already been trained to take the word and any variation of it and do the analysis for you. So you don't even have to worry about spelling the word correctly. But you got to get somewhat close. But anyway, we'll go back to the top. All right. So that's the new feature on search. That feature was put in today. And you can search by individual volume, by all volumes, by series. And what they have, they're all words, precise phrase, all that sort of thing. That's so that if you were to put 2 or 3 words there together, like you wanted the fifth dimension, which you see right down there, you could have it find every reference where fifth was there, dimension was there, or just those 3 words together, the fifth dimension was there, and it would do it any one of those ways. We're not going to search it right now. I'm just saying that's why there's this all words there, or exact phrase. It will define the search based upon what you choose. Let's go to vlog. Vlog, there you go. This is brand new. Let's just click one. Okay, I didn't like that. I don't know what the reason was, but click. There you go. Okay, click it again. Okay, jump ahead a little bit on the bar. Well, that was an important part of that show. There was talking about Wookiee and Kara barking. a life lesson there in the midst of the show.
I don't think we have audio. I can't
Okay.
hear.
Okay.
I
I can hear it, but not everybody can. Click on the X and we'll go
Yep.
out of it. All right. So this is the vlog. What's going to happen here that's going to be slightly different going forward. And you can go down to the bottom, scroll to the bottom of the page. What will be different? You see there's 66 pages there of this many vlogged per page. It's a lot of daggone vlogs. It'll be over 1,000 of them. Is we're going to do a better job of organizing them in series. At this point, we don't really have any one of our forums where they're well organized by series. I went to all the channels earlier today. And so we're going to, and I think the reason for that is we've written titles that are more likely to attract attention than the very pedantic, this is this date and it's series such and such episode number. And so by doing that, we made it more difficult to organize everything, but more appropriate for viewership. And so we're going to have a hashtag system that also presents them by episode and episode number, and a series and episode number, and they will all present so that every series of Messiah and Son will present in order. Every final word picture, every in the garden, every Dowd is the one. They will all be categorized by the series and the episode number, and that is what we're going to work on. So it'll be a little bit of work to get that all done. All right, now go back to the top. All right, click on blog. All right, go on down a little bit. All right, click. Oh, whoa, go back up. Okay, click on the picture of the Donald right there. Now, if you bring anything up, see what you see is to the right. This is a blog by Donald, and I said, who made Trump God? Does Trump believe that he is dictator of the world? Does the Donald have a Der Fuhrer complex? He said that he is going to appoint the new leader of Iran, and that only he can appoint the new leader of Iran. That's pretty weird for a guy with comb over hair and orange makeup, isn't it? But nonetheless, that's what he said. So look at that. Now go click the next arrow. And here is a post where I think it was the Wall Street Journal did, and the Wall Street Journal said that there is a remarkable skepticism in the media about the Iran war, suggesting that the media and journalists think that the U.S. is losing it. And so I ended up, no kidding, Sherlock. And so it's a beautiful presentation where we have, I think, a better presentation of the image and a better, clearer presentation of the commentary so that we can keep our community up to speed with what's happening around the world. Click another one if you wouldn't mind. Here is the ongoing destruction. Right? Of course, Trump says that Iran wants to make a deal to end the war, but the UN, when he says that Trump that Iran wants to make a deal to end the war, no, they don't, and there is no one in Iran saying we want to make a deal. So what Trump is saying is we need to make a deal because we can't continue to fight this war and that we can't win this war. So we need to make a deal, but there's no one to negotiate with. So now what are we going to do? Click the next one. Just each, this one is, Iran is saying that if the U.S. deploys the Kurds, then they're going to send ballistic missiles and kill a bunch of Kurds. And if you have followed this, what you would recognize is that the United States used the Kurds in Iraq to destabilize Saddam Hussein and to fight a war on behalf of the United States as a proxy. And then when Saddam Hussein was gone and the Kurds had successfully executed their role, the United States said there will be no independent state for the Kurds. In other words, we betrayed them. And then we use them, the Kurds again in Syria, to attack the Sunni militias like ISIS and the Assad positions, and promising them that they would have a Kurdistan if they prevailed, carved out of Syria this time. They did it. The United States betrayed them again and said, no, we're going to weaponize and partner with the Islamic State government of Syria. And now the United States is trying to play them a third time to have them go in and attack Iran as foot soldiers, since we're not going to send foot soldiers in. We're going to have a proxy do it. And if the Kurds are stupid enough to fall for that, then that's their fault. But how can you be that dumb that you would allow the United States to pull the carpet underneath you a third time? So this is the kind of things that exist at the blog, and so I think it's a nice presentation of the news. You can click one more, and then we'll be done with that and move on to something else. Oh, here are these pictures of the Twistians laying hands on and praying for the Donald as if he were their new Messiah. And so here they're blessing Rahab. Rahab is Satan in the flesh. He is the great betrayer. So Christians are easy to fool. So anyway, that's the kind of thing that's here. Well, you might have to go back to another tab, because I go ahead and click that and see what happens. There you go. Okay, so you came right back to it. Let's just go down a little bit and see. Go down a little further. But you can continue to, that next button is really the way to go through the news. Keep on going down. All the way through here. Keep on going down. Just keep on going down. Oh, the Wookiee is saying that he wants to spend more time translating and contemplating and sharing, and less time being annoyed by Facebook and X. So he's inviting you to do the same. And there are page after page after page of these things. So let's go back up to the top. Pretty cool, though, to have a news blog. In fact, when we do the vlog on the blog, we're going to do it from this that format. Click on media, please. Now, everyone that's listening here, whether you're listening to an archive, no matter where you're listening, if you are managing an account for us and you're posting material on that account, for example, you look at Facebook there. I know that there are at least 2 more Facebook pages under us beyond the Craig Wynn 986 page. And the Craig Wynn 986 page, I'm not posting anymore. I use the YadaYah Facebook page to feed our website, and then there's the group account of YadaYah. But all 3 should be listed up here. We have at least 6 YouTube channels, not 3 YouTube channels. And so I know that Charles, for example, has 2 YouTube channels, a new one that's just for littles, where he's creating animated pieces. And the last one is absolutely magnificent that he did on Yahweh's name. But his YouTube channels should be part of this, and any other that we have. I know we have 2 Rumble channels, for example. So if you're managing a channel and we don't have it listed here, I need you to send a message or an email to Kevin or to Rich and say, I hear the details and here's where it is, and we'll add it to this list. Okay, we're not trying to ignore anybody. I've asked for this. We need your input to fill that out. All right, let's go to music. All right, just for fun, let's go down to the bottom. I want you to play Sukah. Sukah is the one where, and if you don't have any audio, I know we do, but you should also check. Well, yeah, see, it's not playing, is it?
Not yet.
So oh, there it is. If we don't have audio, we'll cut it short. Just let us know.
And I'll tell you real quick.
So I'm definitely hearing the instrumental introduction to this. I hope everybody else is able to.
No, there's no audio.
Silent.
And it's not going out on the feed.
Okay, so it's not going down on the feed. We'll stop that then, and we will we'll do this again at a time when it is going out on the feed. I don't know what the issue is, why it did not do that. All right, so we go back up to the website as a general. There's now the invite. Go all the way to the top, please. We'll figure out why the feed is not picking that up. Click invite. Okay, we won't play these now since we're having audio issues. But what we have here, and there's actually 5 times more of these. And so when I don't want you to no, stop it, please. We already figured out we don't have any audio. So we'll go back and we will play these at another time when we have our program set up better. Okay, so there is an invite. It's got all the invites. It's also going to have all of the Do You Yada will also be there. And I've seen a version of it previous that had them all. Please don't click on it. Please don't click on it. Okay, now go to translations. We're going to go there. Anyway, it was earlier today. They had all of the Do You Yada and probably 20 of the animations that are invitations to various parts of the site. All right, this is the translation index. It just defaults to chapter 1 of Bereshith Genesis. You can just go down there and you can see how it is done. You can also see now that it has the superscripts of the Aleph and the Ain. See the Eth there, and the Reshith and Elohim and Bara. Those are all superscripts. They tell you if that letter sound is coming from an Ain or an Aleph. So it is. This is our new format. I think it's something that no one else has done before, but now you have that capability. And in this, if you were to, and we won't do it at this time, but if you were to link on that blue hyperlink above there, it would take you to the page turner book. Don't do it, please. And it would show you exactly where that translation came from. Go on up a little bit. And it would take you to that particular page in the page turner book, and you can see all the commentary on it. And click on the down arrow where it has Bereshith on book. And so every book that we have, I didn't open. I can see your mouse way below it. You can't get the cursor up to Bereshith Genesis. Click on the down arrow, please. There you go. All right. He's not able to control the mouse and bring it down. He has every book that we have translated, every chapter we've translated, all verses we've translated. It's all there.
I see it, but it's not showing up on the broadcast.
Okay. Oh, you can see it, but it's not. Okay. Yeah. That's really weird. Okay. Click on glossary. Just for fun, and click any letter, and then go on down, please.
Look at that.
Go on down, please. All right, so these are all the words. It starts with the Bayeth. It shows the Paleo Hebrew, shows the modern Hebrew, shows the Strong's number, shows the part of grammar that the word is, and they have Kirk's definition. And you can see in the background, very light, those are Kirk's illustrations to show the concept of those letters, like that tent, which is symbolism of a home. And so he has done graphics that help explain the letter, and Joe has integrated them into the background. And I guess there's some letters that don't have as many graphics, and Kirk's going to draw more, and we'll have more graphics depicting the nature of these letters. All right, so that's that. We'll go back to the top, please. And it's every letter is organized that way. Dead Sea Scrolls, please. All right, the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's already not showing the way that it normally is. There it is. Okay. All right. So click on all where it says chapter. See if you can bring it up.
Yep,
okay, he can't. All right. So we'll have to figure out why we can get StreamYard. We'll do a recorded session in StreamYard. But what I wanted to say here is, okay, that did bring up all. Let's see what's down there. All right. So now I want you to click missing and differs, those boxes. Okay, and differs. So what it's doing now is, this is the way that I use the Dead Sea Scrolls. What I want to know is what words are different, missing or added to the oldest witness, the Dead Sea Scrolls, versus the Masoretic text. And what this does is it says that those like and blasted, that is different. And then the strike through there on 4Q Gen on 41:16, where the Masoretic text reads, "It isn't in me," and then the Dead Sea Scrolls reads, "Without me." So it tells you exactly what those things are. Now it'd be a lot for this thing to work, but if you were to mouse over the green and the light green and the olive, there you go. So because most of those using the site don't read Hebrew, what's to the right there, that's a transcription of the Dead Sea Scrolls. That olive color is what's in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the green color is what is being supplied from the Masoretic text because it wasn't in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So if there's a difference, you can actually mouse over this text, and it will bring you to the Hebrew word. And if you go up to that text bar itself and you click on it, it will expand the difference. And it might not work just on what we're doing. There you go. See how that works. So it is an amazing study tool. And the Dead Sea Scrolls has never been presented at anywhere close to this level of clarity and capability. It's a major wow.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it is interactive in that way. You can see that you can search it just for missing and differs. You can do everything. You can search just for match, partials, spelling differences. And oh, by the way, the copy on the right side, if you click the YadaYah Towrah right there, what that will do, there it goes. That's the original. That's the original script.
Nice.
How about that?
That's cool.
Isn't that cool? So the dark green is reconstructed, and the olive green that was preserved in the scroll, where we know that the word is from the scroll. So that is the best presentation of the Dead Sea Scrolls ever. Yeah. And to be able to put that together and to have all of those features that no one has ever had before. Yeah. That is, I could have written these 35 books in a third of the time that I had this tool. By the way, today I was tracking down something. I came to an insight today. I said, I'm just certain this is the case. It just is real to me, and as the fingers on my hand. And I said, I just know it's true, and I know where I have to go to verify it, and I know what it's going to say. And first thing I did is I went here to those two passages where I knew it would be. And I said, all right, is there any difference between the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Masoretic here? Certain enough, there was. And then the next thing is, what is that difference? I could go over to the right. And then I said, all right, I know I've translated these passages before. I went in and used the translation index and brought them all up. And voila, we were off to the races. And indeed, what I had perceived to be true is true. I think I'd blow everybody's mind if I started on it now, so I'm just going to leave that out as a teaser.
I only had this tool 3 years ago. I would be so far ahead.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I can imagine having access to this. It's just,
seriously.
For when I was writing Prophet of Doom, when I was writing the YadaYah series, what I would do is I had this paperback. You can go back and get rid of the website now. We've done it enough. Everybody knows. I think they've seen the timeline before, and we're going to do, by the way, a whole tutorial and sometime over the next month with Joe driving and with Joe commenting, since he created this, and we'll have some of the other the new features into it as well. Yeah. Everybody knows that I have a good relationship with Joe. We've been best friends for 30 years. There's not a lot of men that can say they have a 30-year best friend, but I do. And Joe, he's the man whose character I have always found to be flawless, and he has all the skills. He's attitude and aptitude. Joe's long on both. He has amazing talent, and he's one of those people that there are people in life that if you give a dime to, they're going to return $1. Joe is one of those kind of people. Yahowah happens to be one of those kind of individuals. You give him a dime's worth of effort, he returns a dollar to you. Joe is one of those kind of people. And so it just is my pleasure. Every time you hear me, I'm sure, speak of the kind of things that Joe does, I glow. I just think he is the neatest guy going. It's kind of interesting now that my wife talks to Joe probably 2 to 3 hours a day. It's more time than husbands and wives normally spend talking together. But it's because of two things. One is she's taken a real interest in Joe's life and has made huge contributions, but also because they all of this design, they did this together. This is long conversations, all of the imagery, the layout, the look and feel of that site. They did it together. And they have also created an admin tool that, like that banner that was swirling at the top, which is a curtain. He has an admin tool that those who like to create that kind of thing, you can create 20 different looks. And every time you click on a new page, it will be a different look at the top. Everything else will stay the same. The banner will change, and he can show you how to load them. So on the glossary, you don't like something, he has an admin tool that you can go in and correct it. Not that anybody in our group would make a mistake. Yeah, we're laughing at mistakes because that is the thing that God is looking for. He wants most of all for us to make mistakes, because it's only when we make mistakes that we can demonstrate that we have the capacity to learn and grow beyond them. This is the key thing that he wants us to do, and part of who we become. Leah is standing up right here.
We have a song to introduce.
We have what?
We have a new song tonight.
But is it loaded?
I think it's loaded.
Oh, well, if it is, then we'll go ahead and play a song that is loaded. I received a letter, by the way, from Mary, who Kirk, I don't know if you know it, but Mary was one of 3 people who invested hundreds and hundreds of hours taking your analog version, handwritten version of your glossary.
I know very well. Yes.
Yeah. And turning it into something that we could actually show online. So, that was a labor of love. And so I credited Mary because I knew how much time she had spent in it. But Mary wrote me a letter. She says, I heard your show on that. And that's unfair because Mariah also invested in an enormous amount of time. And the guy up there with the gray beard and the hat at the top, she said that Kevin also invested an enormous amount of time. And I know Rich also tried to store it so that we would have use for it when and could go back to it when it was ready to go. But it was a group effort, and I thanked Mary for sharing credit.
Thank you.
And that's what she said. It was a shared project, correct? So she wanted everybody.
Yeah, there was a lot of people working on that throughout. It was my first project, actually. That's what the first thing I did. As
right.
part
So
of
you were
team.
right there at the beginning of it. Yeah.
And
So
you
you,
didn't
Mary,
quit.
and Mariah, and I think that Patty even worked on it for a while there, James. So she was also one on. But it was a group project too. I don't think our buddy Kirk understands that in the online world we can't use analog.
No.
I could have done these books on a typewriter, but they wouldn't have done us any good.
No.
I could have handwritten them too, but that wouldn't have done us any good either.
The upside is at least Kirk's handwriting is legible. So
well, there you go. So,
you would not want to have had to try and do that from my handwriting.
Thank you, JB.
That was, and it reinforced the meaning of all those words because you don't really own something until you've engaged in doing it. So it was secretly an educational process for Mary, Kevin, and for Mariah.
I just quickly say that what you just showed us though on the translation thing, I was sitting here thinking, I am so glad I didn't die.
Oh, yeah,
this is great.
Yeah,
you wrote me a note. I'm happy now. I see.
Yeah.
I can. Wow, what a tool.
Yeah. Well, I knew what we were headed towards. I just didn't know it was going to be that good. And I fought Joe on a few of these things. Like I never wanted an all. I liked the ability to go to YadaYah, Isaiah, and pick a chapter and then verse, and just have that verse come up. And I could then choose, which of the books that I wanted that verse to come up. And Joe says, to trust me on this. I've got a better way to do this. And I said, no, but that's the way I use it. I don't want it to be different. And he says, okay, I'll tell you what. I've done a lot of things with you in the past. I'm going to beg to differ. I think I've got a better way to do it. And when you're done, if you don't like it, we'll do it your way. But I'm going to finish it my way. And what he did is the ability to now YadaYah, or let's just take the 20-second Mizmowr, because that's where I found one of my answers today. I don't have to do 20-second Mizmowr, verse something or other, and then choose the book that I want the translation from, because I've probably translated it 5 times. Or the 89th, I've translated it, 8 or 9 times. I don't have to choose where I want it. and I don't, it doesn't come up on a little bitty rectangle, and that's it. So what he did is you can isolate one if you want, but he did something he says much better. So you do Mizmowr 22 and you select all, it gives you all of it. Every translation of verse 1, every translation of verse 2, they're all there one after another. And if you want to see the commentary that supports it, you click the link and it takes you right to that page. It is so vastly superior to what we had before that I got to call Joe and I said, okay, you won that one. Good job. I am not only conceding unconditional surrender, but delighted to do so. Yeah, there we go. Unconditional surrender. And thrilled to do so. What you created is vastly superior. I wouldn't even contemplate using my way because your way is so much better. It's a great tool. And the whole site is just absolutely marvelous. And soon we're going to have that interaction chat. We're trying to decide, do we write it from scratch or do we use Frindica, which has all the features and more of Facebook. And do we do that or do we do our own? And the issue is that you do have to, right now on the website, we don't keep track of anybody. You can come and you're anonymous. To be able to chat, we can't do that. You have to have an identity. And people that are belligerent, we have to be able to block and the like. So we'll have to deal with that. And then we have to have some restriction on the Ask YadaYah. Because we're going to have an embedded Claude AI system. They don't run free. And so there's a charge each time that it's used, but it's nominal. And so long as it's family, I don't care how often it's used, but I don't want a bot to go in there and click it 1,000 times.
Yeah, the 47,000. There are people that had $47,000 bills because a bot went crazy.
Yeah, and so we have to restrict searches to no more than one per day per customer, unless you are you have signed in and you're a contributor to the chat where we know who you are. Then you can question all you want. So that's the process we're developing for it. But so far we've actually run queries through it. It asked, so Yada, what's your favorite song? No, it got it wrong, but it wrote a beautiful explanation. The explanation was really, really well written. I liked it a lot. Maybe I need to change it. Yeah, pick the 19th, and it said this is a favorite, and explained why it's my favorite. I said, well, it's not my favorite. It's probably not even my top 20 favorites. But I'm beginning, twist my arm. That was a really well written response. And so, yeah, I thought it was really good. That was the first effort at it. So we'll see how it all plays out. But as we're going now, there is no reason for us to be anyplace else other than these places where we can stream these programs and organize these programs, and people can watch them on their TVs and phones so that they're accustomed. Like YouTube is spectacular for that sort of thing. And then we're going to, we'll begin some more critical reviews that people need to hear, like more on Islam, but we'll put them all on Rumble. And, we'll have our video feed from Rumble unless we get one of our other sites up where we're a little more rock solid on our organization. And then we'll do that. And by the way, on YouTube, the lead dog in the YouTube hunt right now has gone from 1,500 and under really a hostile opposition in terms of what was being posted there a little over a year ago to 4,000 subscribers over the course of a year. That's pretty darn impressive. I think that's a silver channel, and then there's a red channel that I don't know who was managing the red channel, but it had when I was managing it for a while, and I got it all the way up to 12 subscribers, and now I looked and it's 2,000. 6 months after I stopped managing it, it went from 12 to 6,000. So somebody's really good at it. I don't know who they are. The channel that it's kind of interesting, and it proves that the numbers don't. The the importance of subscribers is far less important than what those subscribers do. But on Blue, which is the one you're managing, and maybe you're managing many of them, Kevin, but on Blue, we have the most engagement. There'll be 90% of the chat on this program will be on Blue. And it has the longest hours of viewing, the most views, and the most interaction on those views, which are the algorithms that actually drive a site like this. And so, but it's gone from 20 some odd subscribers to almost 600 over the period of time that you've managed it. But you're managing it in a way that you're not trying to maximize subscribers. You're trying to maximize the things that matter, what people are watching and how they're relating to it and interacting with it. And so it's really an interesting situation. And we're, of course, we would, probably have 10,000 subscribers if we just had one YouTube channel, because the algorithms would be so much better, maybe even 20,000. But I chose not to do that. And I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but the reason I chose not to do it is that YouTube had been too fickle and thrown people off for any manner of things. And they have the world's worst customer service. There's nothing you can do to communicate with them. It's kind of like Facebook. There's nothing you can do, even when they make the mistake. And so I felt that it would be better to have a lesser number of subscribers and have a more secure environment where there were many people that were managing those accounts, so that one account goes down, the other 5 remain.
You have one landmine with one account, and it's put in a quarter and start from scratch. So, right. I mean, absolutely.
We're not in that position because we have at least 6 YouTube accounts, and they're under different management. So that was the thought process. I'm comfortable with the decision I made because, again, we're not looking for quantity. We're looking for quality. That's what Yahowah's whole thing is about, and it's working beautifully. Now, I'm told
I gotta tell you, Craig and everybody else, Team YadaYah is absolutely awesome, and with a special shout out to Joe. And what you were saying before, and a lot of what has happened recently, is a term that you've just elaborated on recently, tamym. And it's not perfection, but it's not perfect, but to finish it up, to complete it, and to just get it done. And that's just, this is just an amazing thing. Yeah. And that's just an amazing revelation.
It's one of the most amazing revelations that we've had. We've had so many beautiful ones, but when we figured out that Yahowah was not looking for perfection, in fact, he's not perfect, doesn't want us to be perfect, and perfection would mean that there'd be no purpose to our existence and nothing for Yahowah that would be of any value. Perfection is a religious concept and makes no sense at all. And we didn't know that until we realized what Yahowah was trying to do with Dowd. With Adam, the cat out of the bag there. Adam is Dowd, by the way. That's why he's the firstborn son of Yahowah. But with Adam, Dowd, and by the way, Adam's not a name. It is a description. It just means the man.
The man.
And the man happened to be Dowd. It's Dowd's first of many lives, and the one we think of where he was king was not his first life, actually. But what God was looking for is, I want you to be observant. I want you to be thoughtful. I want you to be responsive. I want you to be reliable. And those are the things that God wants from us. And tamym is the perfect example of that, because if you finish the job, you are, by definition, reliable. I thought it was one of the most profound insights. And therefore, you're not looking for a perfect Passover lamb. You're not looking for a perfect red cow in the Adamah Parah. God would have no use for one. There aren't any. And the whole concept is counterproductive. What he's looking for is, well, can somebody complete the job? Are you willing to get her done? Because it's a lot that needs to be done. Can I count on you to see it through? And Yahowah found some people along life's way that he was able to do that with. And now he's put together a team Yah, where everybody in the team is tamym. We're all committed to seeing it through and very comfortable in our roles, seeing it through.
Tamym, and then that leads to the other term that is wonderful. It's yachar. respected and valued.
Yes, exactly. Kevin, I'm told that Leah said there's a new song that has been loaded. Do we actually have one that we can play that we'll hear the audio, and then we'll go from there into a little bit of back into Psalm 89?
Okay, absolutely. We will play Sukah. Yeah, I'm going to do it now. Sukah.
Oh, yeah, that's the one I wanted to play anyway.
Right.
Yeah, because the nice thing about Sukah was that was one of the places where I had some constructive criticism, and I said, there's some things here that the symbolism isn't in keeping with the instruction from Yahowah, and I would really like it if you could improve that. And I gave 4 or 5 suggestions, and I'm saying, it's really nice. I love the song. The lyrics are great, and I appreciate the work everybody has done. But I also know who we're representing here, and where we're no perfect here, but we can be better on this one. And here's my thoughts, and it's been redone, and it's beautiful. So I'd love to, let's see it. Let's see it and let's hear it.
The moon shines on Yahowah's good name, a covenant renewed ever the same. Dowd steps echo through time. The king returns, a family unwinds. He leaps with joy, the Adam, a pair of calves set free. Promise kept, love for you and me. The remnant dance, their hearts aglow, singing in the joy they now know. Let the rhythm flow, let your spirit soar. This is Sukah, come on, let's go. Stand upright, walk by his side. In Yahowah's love we all abide. No bows, no chains, no lords enforced. His love and favor, our true course. Not a God of ego, but of delight, inviting us to dance in his light. Man of Edom's got skin in the game, a promise kept for a brighter day. YadaYah calls, the fire refines, the water cleanses, and the woman released. Wickedness falls with the lies of men. Life will flow to let your spirit soar. This is Sukah, come on, let's go. Stand upright, walk by his side. In Yahowah's love we all abide. Yahowah's call, a voice so clear, melody of integrity drawing us near. Let truth stand for a good name, let it shine in Yahowah's renown. Through its gates the nations stream, a family restored, Yah's own dream. We lift our voices, a sound so sweet in Sukah's glow. Is our King, Dowd shalom flows like a river wide. Dowd's throne is lifted on high, from the herald's call into the night. Kabod, kabod, kabod. In the home, splendor is restored. A king's heart are his own people. The jewels in his crown, let them shine. Let the rhythm flow, let your spirit soar. This is Sukah, come on, let's go. Stand upright, walk by his side. In Yahweh's love, we all abide.
Wow.
Wow.
Good song.
Wow.
I think we could all be retired. I mean, Leah writes the lyrics. She comes up with the musical score. She trains the voice. She goes over it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times to improve it. And the team then puts all the graphics to it. She contributes, but there's a whole team working on the graphics. And then I think you make all the transitions. Kevin, you are Mr. Transition to make the whole thing flow together. And
That's not what we call it, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. I'm back there with Captain Kirk in the analog realm. That's why it was so funny to have Facebook accuse me 3 times of cybersecurity issues. I could no more commit cyber security crime than the man on the moon. Well, yes, I am the man on the moon, so that's probably not a good example.
No.
Yeah.
Nevertheless. Yes, I wouldn't know what to call it. But anyway, it's beautiful. And the lyrics are spectacular. The images is great. It's all reinforced. And I'm convinced, as is Yahowah, as was Dowd, that if you can convey a message in a song, and particularly now with the graphic capability and the distribution capability worldwide of a song, it is so much more powerful than a talking head. Delivering words or written words on a page. Infinitely more powerful than written words on a page because they emote. And I think even with the voice inflection and ability, even a person's expression and delivery and cadence, the song is a much more effective way of communicating a message that becomes memorable. And we are being invited back to Sukah. That is our whole message now. We want you to join us as we enter Sukah. You're going to have 1,000 years to get your relationship right with Yahowah and demonstrate that you can be trusted and with him and stand up with him and walk with him and learn from him. And that is our mission. And so I'm absolutely delighted with a song like that. Everybody should be proud of that material. I know Yah is, I am. We all are. All right, we are essentially at our 2-hour mark, but we have a little bit of time left. If you all want to stay here a little bit longer, we'll cover a little bit of the 89th Psalm. When the AI said this is my favorite, was the 19th, and give a really elegant reason for it. What it didn't know is that I'm selfish here. I've got a lot of bad habits, but this is one of them. My favorite Psalm is the one I wrote. It's the 89th. I am Ethan Hawes Rocky. Different life, but I've had a bunch of them, and that was one of them. And so I co-authored this song. And for all the people that hate me out there and in the little mother goddess cult that will have a conniption fit, I'm not kidding here. And I don't really care what you think. I wrote this song. I co-authored it with Yahowah. And I know what the purpose was. It was to restore Dowd's relationship with Yahowah. That was half of the reason for it. And we delivered it to Dowd. And it was after the Amma got his attention, sobered him up. And Dowd fell in love with his mother.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, happens to be the insight that I deduced today and was able to prove it. There's There's more to the Yahweh's Amma that Dowd constantly praises than a surrogate mother. And the insights there are in fact, I know they're more than anybody can process at the moment. I've shared it with only 3 people thus far, but it is a very profound realization. It's this Mizmowr was written to bring Dowd back to Yahowah. And had it not been done, then the world as we know it would not exist. It literally, that's how much is at stake here. This solved the world from spinning off into the oblivion and everyone dying. Dowd is the answer. He's the one who fulfilled Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym. If he doesn't restore his relationship with Yahweh, those cannot be fulfilled. Those are not fulfilled. There is Yahweh's not returning. Dowd's not going to be king of anything. It all ends in nothing. All over. So this relationship had to be resolved, and God couldn't do it on his own. There's a lot of things God can't do. And he can't renege on his word. He made a commitment to things he will tolerate and won't tolerate. And he doesn't do that kind of stuff. He walked away from Dowd and was only talking to him through others. And he was really angry with his son. That doesn't mean he stopped loving his son. It's just that sometimes as a parent, you have to show tough love. You can't take the drug addict and put your arm around them and say, it'll be okay. Let's, you don't need to change. We'll coddle you. It won't work. Yahweh knew what he was doing, and he backed away from Dowd. Dowd had a conniption fit, lashed out at Yahweh. The Yahweh's Amma intervened. That's the last word picture. And then I delivered this to Dowd. And it brought him back.
Straightened him out.
It worked. This was a nuclear bomb as it relates to that. But that was only half of its purpose. The other half is to bring Yehudim and Yisrael back to Dowd. That's the other half. And that's why we're delivering it now. That's why we're going back through it again. Because we already solved that first issue. We brought Dowd back to Yahweh. We reconciled that relationship that became, to use a term that we've been mocking, it became perfect again. Why? Because Dowd finished the job. And he finished the job because of this Mizmowr. And now, since that's already done, we've completed that job. The second purpose of this was to bring Yisrael and Yehudim back to Dowd and back to Yahweh. That is its purpose. That's why we're sharing it. That's why we're going to go back through it. That's why it was written. And it does a marvelous job of that. It positions Dowd as the one. He is the Messiah. He is the Son of God. He is the chosen one. He is the one who literally established the covenant. There is no covenant without Dowd. You know, say, well, that's not fair. It was just set up with Abraham. No, it wasn't. It was narrated with Abraham. And when Abraham went with Yishak up Mount Moriah, and he says, don't take the life of your son, your only son, whom you love. Yeah, that meant that covenant isn't established until the only beloved son of Yahweh, his beloved son whom he loves, becomes the lamb. It was Dowd that established the covenant, and Yahweh says it in like the third verse of this song, that he established the covenant through Dowd. That means Dowd's our savior.
That's right.
It's profound in its implications. And in the last passages, we read that Yahweh was going to use the end times Zeroah, the strong arm who cultivates the harvest for these upcoming 2 harvests, which are Shabbat and Towrah. And he's going to take down Rahab. Christians, because of their stupid translations and their New Testament, are convinced there's an Antichrist. There's no Antichrist. There was no Christ. Dowd is the Messiah. He's the one who was crucified in 33 CE. And the simple truth of it is that God has a term for the misnomer known as the Antichrist. Because if you want to know what an Antichrist, the Antichrist would be Paul, who robbed Dowd, who was the Messiah, of his his credentials, his accolades, his achievements. So that's your Antichrist, is Paul. What God says is the person who's going to come, who is the great betrayer of Israel, who is the great betrayer of the world, who is Satan incarnate, that his name is Rahab. And we read the 4 passages, the 4 prophecies that Rahab is depicted, 2 in YadaYah, 2 in the Mizmowr. And he is brought down by the another life of Ethan Hajraki, which is why he writes of him in this psalm. And it tells Dowd, hey, man, I've got your back, pal. I'm going to resolve all of this animosity that robs you of what you're ultimately going to accomplish in fulfilling this spring Mow'ed by taking down the adversary and the religions the adversary has founded, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And that's what we devoted the last program to. Now, the next line, it says, in your name, they continually rejoice. They celebrate these favorable circumstances. What's the favorable circumstance? That on Towrah, we take down Rahab, who is Satan incarnate. And once that's done, then Yahweh restores the earth to the conditions of Eden, and he eliminates all traces of religion, politics, conspiracy, anti-Semitism. It's all gone. Militarism. And so everybody is left is celebrating. In your name, which means Yahweh's name, they continually rejoice every day. And in your vindication and all that is right about you, they are lifted on high, enriched, they're empowered. That is exactly what God's trying to do for all of us. He wants to enrich us. He wants to empower us, raise us, take us to a higher elevation, increase our dimensionality is what he is offering. Then it reads, indeed, you are the empowering nature of their beautiful adornment and the fortifying aspect of their majestic splendor. This isn't just rhetoric for rhetoric's sake. What did we read in the final word picture? There's a woman, Yahweh's Amma, the productive mother, who visited Dowd prior to the release of this Mizmowr here, the 89th. And after she told Dowd to sober up, to start respecting women for more than their bodies, and to realize that a woman that you can confide in and that is intelligent is vastly better. And then to recognize who you are. Do you know who you are? And then with him lounging around all day and doing nothing, she says, no, I'm going to dress you for success. I know who you are. And much of the story revolves around the fashion coordinator for Sukah, who is going to do all of our apparel. So, if she doesn't like that hat, sorry, pal, but, she's going to
lose the hat.
She's probably going to do what she did to me. Do you see that image they did when I said that I liked the lovable rogue? And they created an Indiana Jones hat and magnificent. Right. Yeah, so I'm going to let her do the fashion coordinating because she's good at it. She owned her own high fashion line in her youth. So that's the symbolism here. She's going to dress us. She is the mother of the covenant. She is the mother of our Savior and our King, Dowd, not just symbolically. And she is going to dress us all for success. We're going to look beautiful. So that's what that means. Majestic splendor and beautiful adornment. By your will, your acceptance and favor, our brilliant trumpet and horn, which is symbolic of our status and our king, Karen, will be raised on high and lifted up and increased. Now, Karen, you've seen that word before? Anybody know where Karen is found? Where does it make its debut?
Back on Moriah, when
Moriah,
Yitzhak is at the top of the,
Abraham and Abram. Yitzhak,
Yep. And what God says is that, or what they report is they saw the Passover lamb with its ram's horn, and that's the horns of the ram are the Karen. They're brilliant, They're a symbol of power, of authority, of kingship, of leadership, of strength. And it was the Quran that identified that's the Passover lamb.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so when God tells a story, you better pay attention, because he's going to reuse the term. In fact, I would say, fellas, that has been the method of growth here recently, is recognizing the pattern in the words, and how when Yahweh uses a metaphor, it's infinitely more powerful than just a word picture. There's something important that he is telling you every time he uses it. And he wants you to relate where Karen was used before and to where it's used now, like this discovery that I found this morning. I found the Rosetta Stone that cemented prophecy to prophecy. And you only can do that when you literally fall in love with the metaphors. When God says something's going to be a sign, and you realize, where did I first see? Oh, yeah, I know where I saw that. How does that relate to this time that it's a miraculous sign? Oh, yeah. You put the pieces together. And that's what Quran means here. So so if I'm making a big deal of it, you think that I'm being religious about the words, okay, I'll stand accused. I love these words. You wrote a glossary, literally
A lot of words.
glossary. If you don't love the words, you can't do that. We have Perry sitting quietly in the corner next to Rich here, and he is now working to get our superscripts on all of the books, and now even when Joe prints the books for the site, you're going to see the superscript. It was on an update earlier today, and many of these words. And what he said is the thing that I'm loving about this project is I'm coming to love the Hebrew writing, those pictographic letters, and coming for the first time to really have a full appreciation of how the detail of each word builds this picture, this word picture together. And you end up falling in love with these words, celebrating these words, because they do help you see the portrait that God is painting, and you understand how all these pieces and passages work together, how this one draws you back to the proof statement. So what is the purpose of this? I'm trying to get Dowd's attention to say, this is your calling. This is what your life is set up to achieve. You're going to be that lamb. These are your horns. Your crown, pal, is in those horns. And where did you last see those horns, pal? You read the Torah. Where did you see them? And so when I'm delivering this to him, I'm having this exact same discussion. Okay, Dowd, where did you first see Quran? And you notice everybody here knew exactly where it was. So will he. And then it will dawn on him. And to say, wait a minute, beloved son, I am Yahweh's beloved son. I'm even called, my name is beloved. He said, I am your father, you are my son. And at that moment, the light will go off. Passover lamb. I'm the one that gets to fulfill it. Obviously, it gets fulfilled in year 4,000 Yah. That's the story in Genesis chapter 1, the fourth day. And the greater luminary being a sign, an oath for the Mow'ed. And the lesser luminary reflecting his brilliance. That is exactly what he would have put those pieces together, and he would have seen himself, once it's explained, in that position. Then it next says, for our gift of deliverance and protective covering, Magan Anaknu, our defense and our shield, are in accord with Yahowah, and on behalf of the Kodesh, set apart one of Yisrael. So, who is, oh, by the way, it says here, I'm going to read the end of it, and then I don't even need to ask the question.
No.
I was going to say, okay, guys, who's the set apart one, the Kodesh of Israel? But if you read the end of it, it says the set apart one of Israel, our Melech king. Okay, so you want to know who the set apart one of Israel is? It is Dowd, our king.
Dowd.
Yep. And so it says here that is the gift that delivers us and protects us. Now, there's only one way you could do that, fulfill Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym. How were the children of Israel delivered from the crucibles of human oppression? 400 years earlier to Dowd's life in Mitzrayim, Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym is what delivered them, correct?
Mhm.
Yep.
So the gift of our deliverance and our protective covering in accord with Yahowah on behalf of the set apart one of Yisrael, our king, it means that he had to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bikuwrym. Now, are you going to know that if you're just reading an average translation? You're just reading the words and you're not thinking about them? Probably not. No. But that's the advantage. And I don't know who it was when we were having our lunch today said that, the translations are really nice and helped a lot. But it's the commentary that explains it. And we aren't here without that commentary. The commentary is what was Rich that
I'm
said.
not here without the comment.
Yeah, Rich says, I'm not here without the commentary.
Me either.
I'm not even here without the commentary. And I wrote the commentary,
You
but
did
I
a
wouldn't be here
commentary.
without the commentary because the commentary is the whole process that leads to understanding. That's the key thing is God is drawing pictures with words. And the more you understand those words and the more connections you can make with other places he used those words, the more you understand. The more you understand, the more you can understand. It's like you're a doctor, Jeff. And when you were in high school, could you have performed any one of the procedures that you're doing now?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And by the time you were through with medical school and you had practiced them and read about them and studied them and understood all of the things that can go wrong and go right about them, you built on top of all of that knowledge. So you could not have gone to medical school without the education you got in high school, correct?
Correct.
And so you built upon that knowledge, you formed a base, and then you added more to it in college. And then the 6 years of medical school and the fellowships and all that sort of thing thereafter, that's when you honed and learned your skill. And the more you did it, the better you were at it.
And I'm still growing, just like
Yes.
now, just like we are. And that's as we are all growing.
Have you ever performed a tracheotomy, for example, or any one of the more advanced procedures that help people who are really sick and in trouble breathe? You ever performed one where your work was not at your very best?
You get used to working fatigued, but I will admit that I've gotten away with quite a bit because of the experience under pressure that over the years to do the job. But I much rather.
Well, there are times when you, because you're fatigued or because somebody had an unusual physiology, that maybe the incision or the procedure or some obstruction happened that wasn't an ideal result, but you've done it enough, you're practiced enough, you were determined and caring enough that you found a resolution.
Yeah. For example, if somebody goes into anaphylactic shock and you have to get an airway and they lose all their anatomical landmarks, you basically, do what you have to do to get the job done. You don't have to be tamym. You got to get the job done, finish it, get the airway going, and preserve brain function.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to get done, and imperfect done is vastly better than trying to say, well, boy, I want to really study all this and let's just see. Okay, we lost this, but maybe I'll go to my tech book and look this up, and we want to make sure we don't do anything wrong. No, it's the person's dead.
The closest thing I could share with you, Craig, is with your ATP credentialing as a pilot. It's kind of a similar. It's obviously different, but it's a similar kind of an analogy in terms of reacting and knowing what to do and dealing with the situation at hand.
Yeah, when you get your private pilot's license and the examiner tests you, the examiner does not put you in a difficult situation. When you get your instrument rating, he puts you in a hood where you can't see anything but a limited view of the instruments, and then puts the airplane damn near upside down and all sorts of horrible positions where you can't see anything. And he test you to make sure that you can land that airplane and fly it again with just the instruments wearing a hood. And after you've been twisted upside down, you don't know what side's up anymore. And when you get your commercial rating, you've got to do that with all manner of distractions on a very complex instrument approach. And the most difficult of those instrument approaches, that the most arcane of them, that has the least functionality. And then he'll take down your panel. So all you're looking is a little standby gyro, and he takes all the rest of it down. So they don't even, your instruments don't even work, and you're still under the hood. That's to get your commercial rating. And by the time you get to the ATP, they're not kidding around, man. You had better be able to perform in any kind of a situation with everything going wrong. The entire panel can go out on that airplane. You can be in IMC conditions where you can't see anything. You can be in the absolute toughest position possible where your airplane is failing, and then they'll fail an engine of the airplane, and they'll fail your flight controls. Now you figure it out.
Yeah. So you have to work blind, and you have to be able to work discombobulated.
Right. And it has to be so in your system that when you have an emergency and you're an ATP, you don't get to go look in the emergency handbook. You have to have it memorized. You have to have memorized items that you know exactly what do I do if there's an engine fire, and you go boom, 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 boom. And you learn exactly what you do, what you say, how you act, and you can do it without any faltering, that you use the adrenaline of the situation to give you greater clarity of thought and action. And that's the ATP. So what you're doing is you're building on top of building. I couldn't pass the ATP examination had I not passed and learned everything necessary in the private pilot, and then the instrument, and then the commercial as you go up through the process. And then the airplanes get more complicated, and then the systems become more complicated, and there's more things to fail, and you're going much, much faster.
It becomes reflexive. It becomes
reflective. Exactly what you're doing. This is exactly how not just translation works, because it's an art form that is built upon practice and experience and exposure. But even more than that, that's how the commentary and the insights work. I will now see insights even when I'm not looking at the words, and it'll come into my mind and says, "Oh my goodness, that's the way it has to be." And I'll understand why it is, and then I'll know where to go to verify that that's correct. Now, I couldn't do that 24 years ago. I couldn't even do that 5 years ago. And the beauty of that is that the level that I'm doing it now is romper room compared to the level we'll be doing it 4 years from now.
That's right.
And that's the joy of it.
You've even had insights during a live broadcast.
Oh, absolutely.
Multiple times.
Oh, sometimes I'm so stunned I don't know how to finish the rest of the live broadcast because of the realization. We were reading the 12th Mizmowr, and all of a sudden I saw something that was that in my mind I was there, and I knew exactly
the
how
Messiah 1 episode.
something.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
I know exactly where it was.
And today was when I decided, I need to track that down, because today I had another insight that it's like the Spirit says, "All right, you're ready for this one now."
Yeah, it's going
And there it was, boom, boom, boom. It is all delivered, signed, sealed, delivered, and proven. And you get to say, "Oh, by the way, I was wrong." When I said that there'd be no reason for Yahowah to insert Dowd any more than 4 years before his fulfillment of Pesach, Matsah, Bikuwrym in 33 CE, I mean, why have him hang around like that all by himself out there in the Roman-occupied province of Yehuda? Boy, was I wrong.
You get to be wrong so you can be more right.
That is absolutely true. And, being wrong about that doesn't affect anybody. Being right about it is not going to mean anything to anybody outside of the most mature members of the covenant family. And that's why going to our own website and being able to talk to family and build family becomes incredibly powerful, because that insight is going to make a big difference in 4 years from now. And it's going to make a Huge difference in 7 years from now, because when Dowd comes back, it ain't going to be, hey, King, I've talked a lot about you, read everything you wrote. I'm really happy to meet you. This is an exciting moment for me. That ain't going to be the way it is at all. Hello, son. It's good to see you again.
I have a question for you. Okay.
Yes.
This week's you've had some pretty extraordinary podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were going over Mizmowr 13, and Dowd was basically saying, Abba, Dad, when are you going to let the cat out of the bag about me?
Yeah.
Time frame wise, I was trying to figure out when that could have been composed.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Dowd is, another time I could say I was wrong. I had thought that Dowd wrote his Mizmowr early in his life when he was less conflicted, because later in his life he became really conflicted. If you look at the series of events with Obed-Edom having to intervene to get the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem, Yahweh's not talking directly to Dowd anymore. You read 2 Samuel 7, and it's Nathan that is communicating from Yahweh. And then you read what happens thereafter with the Bathsheba incident, which is just horrendous. It's worse than you can. We've done the shows on it, and then you realize you go from that to the Absalom rebellion, and Dowd flees town, and he's in real trouble. Then you read the 51st Mizmowr, and it's worse still. He ain't writing any of this stuff during that period. Zero chance that he's writing any of this during that period. And so his inspiration, and I'm talking about every one of the first 30 some odd of the Mizmowr, they had to be written after our intervention. They had to be written after the last word picture was delivered, Proverbs 31, and after the 89th Mizmowr was inspired and delivered and presented to him. And I think it was instant after this was presented. Then he had, I would think, 10 years to write this, to write all of them. And I think he wrote them over those 10 years. So if that's the answer you're looking for, I think it's all of it is over the last 10 years of his life.
It was, again, Ethan Hazraki and Amah had to deliver the 89, had to do what you had to do in order for him to do what he had to do. And it was sort of like the most cognitive awakening that
when Dowd is saying that Yahweh, thank you for sending your Amma, she saved me, and without your Amma, I'm not here. When he says that, when he refers to the visit of "You're my mom," when he writes the 22nd Mizmowr, and he explains that he's going to be crucified, explains how crucifixion works. He explains that he's going to go into hell and what he's going to do it and how it's all going to transpire. Before all of that happens, you know what he says? I'm going to be born the natural way, through labor, through natural childbirth. I'm going to have a man that impregnates a woman, and she's going to get pregnant, and she's going to deliver me in absolute normal labor, and I'm going to be dependent on being nurtured through her breasts. Does that sound like a man to you that was just dropped in 4 years before all this occurred?
Nope.
No.
So then if you go to Isaiah 7:14, and there you have that prophecy that Christians have stolen that says a virgin will have a child. I didn't say that at all. Wait till I share with you what the word is that was chosen for that little gem that is held up to us, and you will know exactly who the mother and father was of Dowd and why he was not inserted 4 years before.
Wow.
But he had real parents for the first time. And all of his existence, his first life, he didn't have a mother and father. He was conceived as Adam.
Oh, man.
And in the life that we know where he was king, He hated his mother and barely knew her, if he knew her at all. Hated her and called her a whore. And his father was a despicable man. He never knew so here's a man that's being set up to be king of the universe, guide everyone, be, ultimately the father figure for everybody, and he has never known a father or a mother. You think that's fair? Do you think that would work? Are you going to send, if you're God, you're going to send your beloved son to fulfill Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym and have him hang out there all by himself? He can't even find anybody to celebrate the Mow'ed with in advance. No one to write down anything that he has. No one to talk to. No one to support him when it gets to be grim. You think that God's going to do that?
Makes no sense.
Yeah, that's rolling the dice to have an orphan,
Yeah.
and hope that they grow up to be well adjusted and to the point that they're going to do the things that need to get done.
Zero chance of that.
Yeah.
So I will share in the future exactly what happened and when it happened and why it happened that way, because it ain't what we've thought in the past.
I don't know how relevant this is, Craig and gentlemen, but as a biological aside, we all know that mitochondria are the conduits and power every function in our bodies that give us life, and that aside from the DNA that we get from each of our parents, the mitochondria has its own DNA, and it is solely derived from the maternal side. The essence of life, which does everything that we do, even now, speak, move our arms, talk, lift, the mitochondria function as a result of our maternal DNA. I'm just throwing that out there for you.
But how does a woman get pregnant? And how does a family operate without a father?
Well, there's plenty of test data and statistics to show how that works in today's world, especially.
Poorly.
It doesn't. It
doesn't.
It is an absolute crapshoot.
If I gave you this idea that he had a mother but he didn't have a father, then I was not a very good communicator. Dowd has a father. He has a mother. When he referred to the intervention in the 31st Mizmowr as my mother, and then he writes all the Mizmowr saying to Yahowah, thank you for providing your Amma, your productive mother. She saved me. She's not a surrogate mother.
She's the real.
And who did it celebrate? Her husband.
Wow.
So no, he did not just have a mother. He had a father.
I wasn't implying that. I was just saying, making the point of the way that how important maternal DNA is to our everyday existence.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with your point. I think your point's a good one. And I was just going to say that it's a little incomplete, but it is a very good point. And I will also tell you that Dowd is far more enamored with, far more in love with his mother than he is his father, which is as it should be. A really strong man should be far more in love with his mother than with his father. Most strong men have to rebel at one point or another against their father, and they come back to them if they're well taught and guided. And that's exactly what has happened. But he loves his mother. He really, really loves his mother. And she was not the one that gave birth to him 3,000 years ago. So it's quite a story. God is the greatest storyteller ever. And how he has managed to conceal this all this time and why he managed to conceal it until this time is part of that story. And it's actually woven into the words that he used to tell the story, why he chose to conceal it, even though it was blatant. It's right there, undeniable, but we never saw it. I read right past it. I remember trying to translate the 22nd Mizmowr and saying, okay, womb means, source of origin. Therefore, he's coming from heaven. And he is suckling on his mother's breasts it's a metaphor for, it's nurturing. And, so, maybe it's the set apart spirit and she's nurtured. No, it is. He used 5 terms in a row that says, I was born the old fashioned way. In the midst of his declaration that I'm going to serve as the Passover lamb and I'm going to be crucified. And he didn't end there. He explained who was with him when he was being crucified and who was with him when he went into Sheol.
Yeah.
He actually told us who was there with him. He didn't go alone. Now that's a mind.
I think we know who those individuals were.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know who was there with him. That's the moment that I had on the 12th Mizmowr, where I said, I don't know how to finish this now because I've seen it, and now I proved it. Does it mean anything to anybody that's outside of our community now? Not a thing. In fact, it will freak the people out that have no business being part of this community. It'll freak them out.
Right. Yeah.
And good. The further they go away, the better. And there's literally nothing they can do to disrupt what we're about at this point. God's really clever at this. He does not let this kind of stuff go to chance. He's really got a well-oiled machine. He knows who he can trust. He sets them up in such a way that he infuses that soul with his spirit. And sometimes he goes all in with 7 spirits, and he makes certain that at the right time, you figure it out. If he had said, hello, young man, you don't know who I am, but, you're going to figure it out in time. And I want you to expose Islam for me. And here's the things. If he had said, oh, by the way, let me tell you the whole story. He had said that, I think you'd just be a puddle right there. You'd say, no, come on.
You don't lead with the Adam of Parah. I've always said
no.
And
it turns out the Adam of Parah isn't the big deal. It's just part of it. That's just part of the story. And so, how about you want to go into hell? What do you think? Think you like crucifixion? And by the way, not only are you going to experience that, but I'm going to hide it from the world. You will not get any credit for it.
Yeah.
You're going to do it strictly for the love of your son. Good enough reason. You're going to demonstrate what's going to be important later, not now. And so you're not going to see it until it only matters to you. And you can now, when we finally meet, Yahowah and I for the first time, and we're all huddled up and this is what we're going to do. You say, yeah, it took you a while, but you got there. Now you know how the picture fits together. Now here's where we're going to go from here. What it does is take all the pressure off of all of this because we've been there. We've done it. There is zero chance that we're not going to prevail this time. Every other time we've come through. We've delivered it much tougher situations than this one. And we had what it took to finish the job. And it's the same things here. The story is they're already written. He's very clever the way that he arranged all of this. And so we don't have any pressure on us, guys. The job gets done. And when you look at now on the way that there's this growth and understanding and the way the whole picture is coming together, and then you combine that with the way that website is coming together to be a legacy for the next 1,000 years and a place we can direct people to learn and to grow, coming together right at the perfect time. So I'm pretty excited about that. Anyway, so these 3 refrains that I just shared, in them, Ethan is affirming many things. First, Yahweh's name is vital to our survival. We know this because those approaching Yahweh's light continually rejoice in his name. That means that if you're going to be there, you know his name, you use his name, you love his name. That's what it means. Which then, what's the next thing you would derive from there? Know Yahweh's name, you aren't there. You aren't among those rejoicing. You're sad. because you're gone. It all, first step, you got to know and accept and love Yahweh's name. It's the thing that, we are as valuable as anything in doing this in YadaYah. Know Yahweh. That's the series. That's the purpose. That's the mission. All 35 books. YadaYah. There's no participation in the covenant without YadaYah, knowing Yahweh. So that's the first. Second, a soul's vindication is predicated on a number of factors, including, as we have said so many times, being right, tzedak, about God. But it's also grounded on God being trustworthy. You can be right about God, but if he is not trustworthy, then it's not going to do any good, is it? And since Yahweh is being presented as fair by a man who has known him for millennia, at this point that he's writing this, he's already known him for just shy of 3,000 years, 2,400 years at this point. That's a long time to know Yahweh. Now, at this point, I've known him for 5,400 years. We've got a pretty good relationship. I'm very comfortable in saying, I know Yahweh. He knew Yahweh. He said, you can trust him. He had seen, because he has been in Shamayim, he had the ability to see how all of this was going to play out. He knows that Yahweh can be trusted. And so we can be assured that we will get what we deserve from this equation. And it's one buttressed by accuracy on both sides. Our responsibility to be accurate, God's commitment to being accurate. It is tzedak for tzedak. Now, third, the beneficiaries will receive the rewards associated with the covenant, which are to be enriched, which is what this said, empowered, enabled, and emancipated. Those are the benefits of the covenant. That's what these covenant members are receiving. Enablement, enrichment, empowerment, and emancipation. Boy, think about it. Emancipation seems like such a simple term. But when you go from 3 dimensions to 4 dimensions, the options of freedom expands infinitely. And the ability to do things and the power and the opportunities, the destinations, the things you can explore, see, and experience when you go from 3 to 4 and then 4 to 5 is, well, it's irrational to say infinitely squared, but it's infinity squared. And then to go to the 6th dimension is infinity to the 3rd power, and then to the 7th would be infinity to the 4th power. Now, that's extraordinary. Now, I'm talking here with a mathematician in the room, and he says, you are an idiot when you talk about infinity and squaring it. But I'm using words to draw a picture, not a mathematical equation. Okay, you can't take infinity means it's a number that has no end. To be infinite has no end. You cannot be infinite, by the way, unless you're growing. So this whole idea of us constantly learning, us constantly growing, us constantly being observant and discovering and thinking and contemplating and making the connections to understand, it is not just of interest to it. It is the requirement for us being infinite. Even God cannot be infinite if he doesn't grow. Being infinite requires constant growth. And this is the way to do it. It's what happens up here. So we're enriched, we're empowered. God, and as God's children, he also lifts us up by replacing the burden of our physical bodies with light and energy. That is how we can be empowered. E equals MC squared. Fourth, Ethan is attesting to this transformation by depicting our souls attired in majestic splendor. He's seen it. He's married to the seamstress, so he's going to mention this, and it's important. We will be fortified and beautifully adorned. This is reminiscent of the meeting Dowd had previously enjoyed with Yahweh's Amma, the 31st Mashal, the final word picture, which is what this series is part of. as it was chronicled, as we know now, in the 31st proverb, the final one. Proverb means word picture. Yeah, she was presented as a stylist and a seamstress, adorning Dowd and all others within the covenant. We're going to be wearing Leah apparel, and she's good at it. She's doing, that website is beautifully styled. Our books now, they're beautifully styled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess who? In fact, when I was kidding with Joe, not kidding with him, I said, Joe, can we do this with that? And he says, no. I said, excuse me? He says, no. This is, I work with Leah on the styling of this site. Leah has her decisions as to what she thinks is the proper way to brand and present this. This is her idea, and no, we're not changing it.
Put you in your
Knows
place.
better.
So, smart man.
Okay.
Said, go ask Leah if you want to change your website, Craig.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the funny thing is that when Leah and I have a discussion on this, and I said, Leah, we're going to change it, and here's the reason why. It always gets changed. Anything that I ask Leah for, she will give her reason. I'll give my reason. If her reason is better, we'll
Sure.
go with her reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty bullish, they say, and I've got very strong conclusions and ideas that I feel responsible for, and I'm not going to let anything stand in the way of fulfilling that responsibility. So what Joe actually said is, I know you have some sway with the Leah. Why don't you talk to her about it? Then I'll do whatever you'd like me to do, is what he had to say. Okay, fifth, Ha is Rocky is drawing our attention to the initial sighting of the Passover lamb with Karen. We talked about that as we were reading through that passage. 1,000 years earlier on this same mountain, Yahweh spoke to Abraham and Yishak from the top of Mount Moriah, which means to respect Yah, to revere Yah, and said that he would provide the sacrificial lamb. Thereupon, Abraham looked up and he saw the lamb with its keren, its radiant horns, caught within the thickets. Now, this is important because at the time, Yahweh told Abraham not to take the life of his only son, whom he loved. And so, with Dowd having been proclaimed in 2 Samuel 6, which is much before this, our presentation of the 89th Mizmowr. So he's already heard, tell Dowd, he is my son, I am his father. So he would have already had that information. With that information and this connection to the presentation of the final narrative test of the covenant on Mount Moriah, the pieces fit together. That's how I came to this conclusion, and having done it this time, I'm sure I did it the previous time, and I presented it to Dowd this way, and he came to understand it and accept it, because the next thing we had a conversation of, this is why it's in God's interest. And listen, pleasing him is a really good idea. You're going to pay dividends forever. And it's why it's in your interest personally, because you're going to have to lead these people forevermore. And when you understand it's also in your people's interest, because you put them through in a very tough position with some of your choices, and you resolve all of that. It's in Yisrael's interest. It's in the interest of the planet. It's in the interest of Yahweh. It's in your personal interest. This is the right call. And come on, it's a little over a day. The end of Passover and through Towrah, it's a day and a few hours. We can do this. It's just that much time. For all eternity, come on. I'll be there with you. We can do this. Absolutely. But we're not going to risk it all by leaving him out there hanging by himself. We're going to support him in all of this. So adding to the intrigue, Towrah, known as trumpets, that on this day, the shofar is blown to garner the people's attention. And keren horns were symbolic of that shofar. The shofar is a horn just like this. So that speaks of what's going to happen on Towrah, which is instrumental to accomplishing this. Further, Koren horns were symbolic of status and therefore of kingship. And in this case, Koren actually means to radiate brilliant light, thereby equating this to the previous pronouncement where we are gloriously attired in what is potentially a garment of luminosity. In this way, we're elevated dimensionally, increased in every capacity as we are lifted up to heaven and raised by our Heavenly Father. Sixth, the value of our spiritual apparel is affirmed by calling it the protective coverance that is a gift of deliverance. What a beautiful way to describe it. So this is a shield for our souls. And seventh, Ethan is attesting that everything he has conveyed is in full accord with Yahowah. He is also saying that God is providing these benefits through the Kodesh. He is the set-apart one of Israel, those who engage and endure with God. He is our king. And should anybody be confused, the prophet immediately says that the set-apart one of Israel is our king, Dowd. So when God says, I'm bringing back his seat of honor and his authority and his throne forever, he's announced that our king is Dowd. So the role of Savior is easily identifiable, and it is not transferable. This song about Dowd is who he was and who he will be as king. He is the one who has already been specifically named in it multiple times and will be again. Therefore, none of this applies to a religious myth. It is not transferable. Now, that was extraordinary. And what we're going to find out what comes next is even more illuminating, but we have been 2 hours and 45 minutes, and that's a long time for everybody to sit still. Will, any thoughts as we close?
No, it's been, I think we had a real fascinating evening here tonight. But like, my process, I like to take it, I jot down notes, and then I go back and I read and recite and I go through it. But nothing in particular right now. No.
Yeah, that's the way I do it too. But I don't. My notes are usually mental notes.
Yeah.
So I'm reading the 12th Mizmowr, and I said, "Oh my goodness, that is quite the vision." And I said, "I think I need now to go and track that down." And now I'm making my way through the 89th Mizmowr further down. I said, I think this is the place where I need to go ahead and track that down. Let's go and find the root. So I come into the show having done that. So it's I'm cheating in a way. So I'm a little further ahead just because I don't typically talk about things that I haven't already gone through the process that you talk about.
Yeah.
So I use the same process. I just may be a day ahead of you on it.
Yeah.
Will, I had the same facial expressions you had. I mean, I had to pick my jaw up off the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was Rich's comment. Rich, when he first came in this morning, I said, "Are you ready for an amazing insight?" And I said, "So here, my friend, sit down. I'm going to tell you something." And he just went, "Oh, of course." And wow. And so, yeah, it was jaw hits the floor. And then I had the same discussion later with Perry and then later in the day with Leah, and came to approach her from a different point of view. And yeah, it is interesting to see people's response, and you realize there's just certain things you can't tell. And people that haven't grown up in this process, who aren't really well schooled in who Yahweh is and his relationship with Dowd and how he would do virtually anything for his son. But there are times when he couldn't do it himself, that he needed another way to get it done. And
I will
needed.
share one thing, Yada.
Yeah.
I have, it's been really great. I think a lot of covenant members struggle with this. You're trying to find your place in this, and it's important to all of us to get people to communicate this. We all love Yahweh. We all want to communicate that. And But now with the paradigm shift, it does take the pressure off to say, okay,
Yeah.
performance isn't going to be measured by how many people we get at this point.
No.
So we need to shift and really reorient towards the website, and maybe it's a more insular process for all of us, less outreach. I don't know how it'll all come about, but it really does take a lot of pressure off. I will say that.
Yeah, it was one of the things that was so important to me today is that I've told you that Joe is my good friend for 30 years, and we have done amazing things together through our lives. And I realize we have a core group that's going to be part of the expression of Sukah going forward. And I see what Leigh and I, working with Joe and the team, are able to achieve with that website. And I'm telling Joe, I said, you know, it's you being part of that now is essential. You're building the website for the millennial Sukah celebration, and that makes you an essential part of all of this. And I know what your concerns are, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make a negotiation here, and I've already heard the answer as it relates to yours and those you love. We're going to make a deal. And so what it does is it creates a tremendous sense of calm. That's what I have experienced over this last few months, is this great quieting and a sense of calm that now I know exactly what we're doing and where we are and how we're going to work together and what we're going to achieve and what we've done in the past and what we'll do in the future. It's to say that Yah found out a way to keep his people and his plan apace, and he's good at this. He has inserted who we need to insert with the right tools, equipped to do the job many, many times, and it has always succeeded. And he isn't about to fail this time, nor the next time. And we can really relax and be comfortable that where we should be, we're doing the things we should be doing. And what other people think about it is now completely and totally immaterial. Don't care. And we shouldn't care. Our job is to prepare ourselves and to develop the material that can transform those souls that listen to the witnesses and are part of that great Towrah celebration into Bikuwrym and into Sukah. That is our job. Is we're not preparing ourselves for our own sake. We're preparing all of this for their sake. It's the best position we could possibly be in, making a contribution to other people's lives that pleases our King and our God and his people. And
what's amazing and stupendous, Craig and gentlemen, is that the timing is impeccable, in that these magnanimous revelations that are coming now, and the understanding and putting together things in rapid fire that have taken this amount of time, and with Joe doing what he's doing in this period of time, it's just I find that's amazing. It's just the way it's taken off. These revelations. I mean, this edition, this website now is facilitating that rapid growth that is necessary.
But let me give you a little insight here. That's it's interesting how the pieces build on top of pieces. So I have a guy sitting here to my right. He kind of looks like YadaYah. So he is our YadaYah man. He's the one that began to work with Claude and particularly with Claude, to train Claude how to do these kinds of things. He had a conversation with Joe, and he says, you know, I know that we're building a site using some WordPress plugins, but you know, they're all pretty clumsy. And I know what you want to do is you want to write your own code to do this. But let me give you an insight as to what you can do that most people can't do, since you are a gifted writer of code, particularly for internet applications. At one time, he was the best in the world. And he says, with what you know and the parameters that you could write, you can be 10, maybe 100 times faster in getting these things done and getting them done well, if you put Claude to work for you and give Claude very, very specific instructions as to what you want done. And the reason for the very rapid development is that Joe said, okay, I'll try that. And he kept, every time he would do it, he would call me and he says, you can't believe what this thing did and how that worked and how I wrote code to give it a path to follow. And then it took it from there. And then it compiled. And he says, I can't wait to show you what I did yesterday. And he says, in the olden days, that would have taken me a month. And this time it took me a day. So part of it is that, Rich started him off on the right path. And Rich knew that there was the potential there, and he's a technologist, but really wasn't in a position where he said, I can't create a website with it, but I understand the technology and how it will work and how people are using it, and you're just more gifted at it. You can do this. And he did. And that's how family created a better outcome than it would have been independently.
He's doing exactly what I said he was going to do.
Yes,
you were going to make a fantastic website. That was one of our first conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have a clue how these LLM, but I've pushed all your data into every LLM I can since 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And they were horrible.
Mm-hmm.
The responses, but once they figure out and I go through the conversations, every LLM sees what your translations as a mathematical formula, because it is. You follow the rules of Hebrew, and that is written in stone. It's not a Romance language. So these models see it as a mathematical process, every one of them, and they all come to the same conclusion. Your writing isn't life-changing, it's reality-changing.
Yeah.
You are rewriting reality. And the LLMs even recognize that translating this way in your technique proves itself. So now you have a self-fulfilling loop that verifies what you do. That's how I verify what you do. And I knew that walking in here when I told you, mathematically, statistically impossible that you are not the Nakar.
Yeah, what Rich does every time I have a new profound insight is he has the AI trained to search the translations that I've had and to either negate them or verify them, and then logically go through what is from this he has deduced the following conclusion. Can you either verify that or nullify it? And what happens each time is that translation is not only valid, it is transformative. And the conclusion is earth-shattering. It is absolutely valid.
And that's not one LLM. That's every one I've ever worked with.
And on every issue. Every single issue. All the time. And that's a lot because every AI, every LLM is designed with a popularity bias. Yep. And there's nothing ever that is less popular than Yahowah, his testimony, or a finding that is anti-political, anti-religious. And so we are at the far extreme of the rebuke of AI because of their popularity bias. And when you tell the AI, I'm not looking for popularity bias. I want you to look at these words, determine if they're translated correctly, and then if the conclusions are valid that are drawn from them. And then you get them into the math of the whole thing. And they all come to the same conclusion all the time.
Yep.
On every issue.
Every time.
Every time. What you have to do if you're going to do this is you have to scrub your mind of religiosity and go with an open mind and engage, put in the effort to come up with the truth as clearly as it can be represented, and then to explain it and justify it, and then to put the pieces together so that you can go from knowing, for the first time, knowing, to beyond knowing to understanding, and then building on top of that understanding to see the whole picture. It's like a tree that grows from, an acorn up to a mighty oak.
How gratifying to hear
I'd
about
like to make a
AI being
comment,
used
too.
intelligently.
I go from the opposite side of Rich. I start with the math model, and then I throw your translations to it. And it solidifies my math model by throwing your translations of the Torah to it. So it goes both directions, whether you start with math or you start with the Torah. It's rock solid.
Yeah, most people don't realize that math is the language of reason, and that probability, common denominators, statistical analysis, all the things that you can do with math and framing issues with math and coming up with equations, that really is the language of logic, the language of reason. And I've always been in love with it for that reason. And I've always been so sad that people resorted to calculators and now their phones and have dispensed with it and are unable to do algebra and geometry and statistical analysis and the like, because math is the language of reason, and reason is how you get from knowing to understanding. It's a very powerful tool, and I am not a mathematician, but I know the process. I respect the process. I love the equation, and so many things that Yahowah is talking about. When you talk about dimensions, that's math. When you talk about going from physical bodies to being enveloped with light energy, that is math. When you talk about what God says He's offering with a double-fold, tenfold increase on Bikuwrym and Shabbat, it's math. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The language of the universe.
It's the universe actually runs on it. It has a primary guideline that not really a guideline. It's an equation that really is the master of the universe. It's light speed. Light speed governs everything that's in the universe. It is the master of time, of distance, of the difference between energy and matter, and the way they relate. God actually wrote the math of the universe around the speed of light, and and he created the language of Hebrew to reflect the nature of light.
It was the first thing He created. Let there be light.
Let there be light. And energy is E equals mc squared. And the C is the speed of light. And the M is physicality. It's matter. It's mass. And E equals the energy side of it. It's everything is an equation. And that equation is essential to knowing what God is trying to do with us. That equation explains it. That equation and relativity explain time itself. It explains the difference between 3 dimensions and 7 dimensions, and it actually defines the very nature of the Hebrew language with its conjugations, as opposed to verbs that are stuck in time. JB, as you saw these tools with the Dead Sea Scrolls and the translations and the like and the glossary, can you imagine starting off like having that tool all those years ago when we started these translations?
Would have loved that. I spent over hundreds of dollars on tools just so I could get the Dead Sea Scrolls information. Had to go between a book and logos and this to get what you have right on one site now. That's amazing.
Yes. Oh yeah. And there's your book, and I don't have a copy of it in this office anymore, but the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible was my, in fact, it's so used. Yeah, there you go. Another. And what I end up having to do is I've used it so many times I had to keep on buying copies because the book kept on falling apart. that I would use it so often, and yet you're physically looking up analog, which great for you, Kirk, but I am trying to make, a little bit of progress into the digital age. I'm not sophisticated yet, but I'm treading water. But what we found, we spent a day together searching for everything we could find, and we actually found a transcription. Because in the past, all I had to work with is I had multiple sources that would tell me the difference between the Masoretic text and the Dead Sea Scrolls. So I always knew the difference. And then you have to do one of two things. You have to reverse engineer to get back to the Hebrew word that is different, or you have to go to a picture of the scroll where there are no demarcations of chapter and verse, and to find that spot and read it from the scroll to come up with what the word is. I mean, it was unbelievably laborious to do this. And now, there it is. Just mouse over it, baby. I mean, it's all there. It's amazing time saver. I could be, with all of these tools, I could be retired and have 20 people replace me on the translations. Probably not, because it is a skill that you develop over time. The more you do it, the more comfortable you are with it, and it's by doing it that you find all these connections. And so it's actually through that process that leads you to the conclusions that are profound and the insights that are so uniquely essential to our lives. So I might be able to keep my day job.
You'll keep your job. They don't handle inference.
Verifying is easier.
Yes, verifying now is easier. That is true. And we're trying to make verifying easier. And even when the covenant members get the copy of the Torah written inside of us, I'm actually convinced that for us that are already emancipated, those instructions are going to be how not to be stupid, using free will. When you're empowered to the point you can go travel around the universe and have access to the DNA of life and black holes and galaxies and all that sort of thing. And so we're going to have those instructions. But even if a number of those, and many of those, maybe even all of those that go into the millennial Shabbat have a full copy of the Torah inside of them, and they are able to read Hebrew, it still isn't enough. That's why God didn't just hand down the Torah and say, here you go. He had it all delivered through and experienced by the children of Israel and through Moshe. And then Moshe spent the entire Devarim explaining it. To really appreciate it, God figured out we need it dumbed down to our level. And that's what Moshe did with Devarim. That's what I'm trying to do, is that you take brilliance from God, and you have to convey it in a way that resonates with people. And so it's got to make sense to you. Then you got to be able to teach it. And what is the absolute best way to learn something and really, really learn it so that you own the material is to teach it?
Repetition.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why the Hebrew word for teach is also the Hebrew word for learn. Different sides of the same coin. Kirk, you taught art school. My guess is that in teaching art school, you honed your craft.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When you have to put it into words and demonstrate it, and it's more of a physical act because I'm up there demonstrating. And if you do a lecture tour, which I did for 2 years, every major art school, those people knew a lot. And
Yeah.
I would stand up there and I said, boy, try to know your stuff. And I got really good at it, too.
Yeah. Now, when I was writing you today, when Joe was saying, hey, man, I loved your sketches. I don't know if you noticed, but on your glossary, he has grade back versions of all your sketches for each letter.
Oh, yeah,
So he
they're
took-
very faint, but I know where they came from.
Yeah. So what he's looking to do is to have more of those, because they create a very rich historical view of how those letters were depicted to show things. So what he was saying, I'd love to have more of those. I'll code them all in graphically, so they're the background of the glossary.
Okay.
And so that's what I was kidding you about. Come on, man, Yah needs more sketches. And so I was trying to
I
be
can do that.
facetious.
That's one of the things I can do.
I heard that. So I just want to make sure you know that I'm kidding with you here. Kind of kidding with you on the square. Yes, I think the grade back images that you have add a degree of sophistication and richness to the presentation. I think they're beautiful. It's your glossary, and so your art behind the letters, I think, is a beautiful way to present it. The more we understand the history of those letters and what those letters, those pictographs represented, the more we understand the words. It's one of the things that our math major over here, Perry, has found out, that the more that you look at the letters and what they convey, particularly the difference between an Ain and an Aleph, and why one is used in one place and the other one is used in another. One is the ram and the leadership and the door, and also the bull and the strength and ferocity. But the other one is an eye, perception, observation, understanding, and they both convey very positive things. And then you look at why is one at the end of one word, like yada. Which one do you think is going to be there? I mean, the word means to know. Which one do you think is it an elephant or an ain, a ram bull or an eye that is going to be at the end of that word?
Oh, it's an eye.
It's
Man.
an eye. Absolutely. It's an eye. Yeah. So you learn, El God. It's leadership. It's the protector. Which one do you think is going to be there? Is it the ram bull, or is it going to be the eye?
Yep.
Yeah, it's the ram bull, absolutely. And Ab Father, it's exactly the same thing. It's the father being observant is great, but he's got to protect the family.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be the ram bull. He's got to lead the family. So it's the ram bull that is in those roles. And so you see which letters are used and why they're used, like Bereth, covenant, and Be'eth, home. Well, what do you think the first letter is going to be? Be'eth, which is the drawing of a home. And what's the difference between Bereth and Bereth, the home, versus the covenant family? There's only one letter difference. It's an added letter. Which one do you think it is? It's the observant individual, the person who listens, the person who sees, and the person who thinks and then speaks. It's the observant individual that transforms that home into the covenant family. It's a really great language, and the more time you spend at it, and particularly if it is a bit laborious, because there are so many exceptions in Hebrew and the way things work and the way that things are transliterated in our lexicons to identify the root word. There are lots and lots of lots of different ways to transliterate things, lots of different ways to define them, and it's the process of brute forcing it a little bit. Not just trying to say, well, here's a simple rule, I'll apply the rule, it'll fix everything. No, you got to read through it and make sure that you're doing it correctly. And the more you do that, the more you come to know the material, own the material, understand the material, and appreciate what God's saying and how he's building a mathematical model for us to capitalize upon. 6 + 1 = 7, baby.
Yeah. What's amazing, fellas, just totally amazing, is that over the course of a year and a half, with all that we've learned as a result of the prior team and the benefits of Yah's teaching, the magnificence of his teaching about the mother goddess cult, and all that we've gleaned and learned in Torah, and it's to facilitate this amalgamation of this fantastic team, it's like, wow.
And we would not have had this team. Yeah, I mean, you'd still be together, although you were on the outs with the old. They really hated you, and they disrespected Kirk. So and they only used JB for the one line because you copied a line from me. I said, "Don't trust me. Validate these things for yourselves." Well, they left that part out. They just says, JB knows him, and he wrote, "Don't trust him." So that's how they used you. So it is we could not have bonded the way we have, and we would not have been together as a group. We would not have you, Will, would not have you, Kevin, would not have you, Kirk. We wouldn't have Perry here. And Leah was constantly harassed by them. And when they left, she became the mother of the covenant. She's the one who has developed so much of all of this. And it brought in the likes of Moriah, who has become so essential to us, and it goes on and on. And Leah was talking about your son is doing something that is really special, and she's was telling me to be ready for the results. That is really impressive what he's doing, Will. And so Kirk, to go from where you were to Sylvia. Now that's a heck of an upgrade. And that feisty personality of hers that's so judgmental and yet so loving. She's the full expression of mind and heart. Yeah, she's full expression of mind and heart. Kevin, you've been the anchor. I mean, you are the foundation. It really all gels now around you, and what you've been able to do. And then having Rich move here so that we can do what we're supposed to do, and to do it in a robust manner, and to have somebody who is just, like a brother, family, in support of what we're doing, and so comfortable to be around, and so utterly supportive. It's just a tremendous blessing. And here we are now with Perry having joined us, and each day growing closer. And Rich and I talked about it, said what a delight it is to see him and his whole attitude, because it's, you're doing this 12, 14 hours a day, and yet you still have to have some downtime, because if you don't, the human mind and spirit and everything, it just doesn't work without that. And yet he is very, very good at coming in and going out. He needs his time. We need our time, and yet the contribution is terrific. And you look at that thing behind you. He is. I've always loved puzzles and tough puzzles, and thought that I had a systematic approach, and I started this one, and then he took it over. And he's a much better puzzler than I am, I'll tell you. And it is nice in your own home to see somebody that can outdo you at something that you think you're good at and that you love. A lot of people think I'm competitive. No, I'd much rather see somebody that I'm close to and friendly with outperform me. I mean, that is the thing that you look for, is to be outperformed. That means that things are going great. He is the master when it comes to puzzling. It's just the whole
that puzzle was your nemesis till Perry got here.
Well, I did the easy part of it, and I began to lay the pieces out by shape and color, and then he took it to the next level and framed the whole thing, and then built bridges inside of it, and has a very systematic approach. And I looked at it and finally said, it's a time reward kind of thing. And this puzzle, after I did the easy part, I realized that I don't have the time for the reward of seeing that puzzle finished, even though I think, realistically, at the end of the day, I have to unwind. I have to pull away from this. You cannot do it 24 hours a day. And particularly when you get to be older, you have to have quiet time. And so I don't have any problem whether it's watching news and developing my mind in terms of understanding what's happening in the world, or taking time to do a puzzle. But this one, it just shows you that what I thought was beyond the reach of time reward, he had a different approach, and he was not going to let that puzzle go unsolved. And it's not completely solved yet, but it will be, and it'll be fun. We work together on it, and it's a nice bonding experience. And some people might say, come on, that's a childish thing to build puzzles. No, it's when you are able to put the pieces of a puzzle together, and you appreciate how colors and lines and design and framing work, and how things fit together, and how you go about determining how things to fit together. It is really a marvelous lesson and learning experience that I think sharpens our minds in terms of reason. Everything I do relative to these translations and the insights, They are all a puzzle that is being solved. It is, that's exactly, every word is a piece to a puzzle. They're shaded, they have a place that they go, and they fit. And when you put them all together, you see the issue framed, and it's a beautiful picture that emerges. And so that's exactly what we're doing. We are putting together the most complicated, comprehensive puzzle in the universe in a way for the first time it is seen as beautiful and comprehensive, and will be one that we will always be improving on the insights that can be derived from it. And that's why I think we have full-time employment going through the millennial Shabbat, because even if everybody has a copy of the Torah, somebody still needs to explain it and make the connections and show the brilliance of the whole thing and how that whole story fits together.
This team, this group, it's all also about describing neuroplasticity and synaptic plasticity to a T. This has,
I would agree with you if I knew what those words meant.
Oh,
yeah, I would agree with you if I knew what those words meant. But they sound good, and I'm gonna say you're right. Yes, I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree with you, Dr. Jeff.
No.
Especially when sex makes you smarter.
Yeah. You know, the all-time lecture, Dr. Jeff, that you have delivered is that sex makes you smarter. And not only did you say it with a straight face, you proved it, that sex makes you smarter, because it happens to be true.
The data don't lie. And
the data don't lie.
What I'm talking about, it's nothing that complicated. It's the neurons in your brain and the support structures in your brain are malleable to improving in its function, and depending on what you do. And it's a whole chemical soup, and there's a biologic basis to it. And doing puzzles and figuring things out facilitate that.
Yes,
it's been shown to decrease people with cognitive difficulties and even Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, you are a physician, and you know that every patient that comes to you is a puzzle to be solved. They have clues, they have symptoms. You use the symptoms and the clues that they are manifesting to solve the puzzle as to what is ailing them and how to treat them. Is that not true?
Yeah, they're a constellation of signs and symptoms, as you're saying, and it's like, figure me out.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Put these pieces of the puzzle together and use your experience and your education to resolve that. That's what we're doing in Yahowah's testimony. Is we're using that exact same process, and it leads to the exact same result. Yeah. And the more you do it, the better you are at it.
But this job is much more magnificent, because while I've been trained to try and again heal the flesh transiently, I'm continuing as a student of the Torah to learn how to facilitate or provide a conduit or to eternal life. I've referred to you and every member of the covenant who is learned as ultimate Raphael, the ultimate health givers, because they can facilitate eternal life and perpetuity. Le'olam Mow'ed. Well, I could just do it in this window of time.
We are physicians of the soul.
Yeah,
we're healers of the soul. Yeah, exactly right. And it's lovely that and reassuring that God has trusted us.
Yeah,
with that responsibility.
But so, just to all those who are going to poo-poo and have their issues with sex and whatever, Yah says otherwise. Biology says otherwise. So that's it. It is what it is.
Yep, it's true.
Well, lovely to have a better brain by next week.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Sylvia's listening to this program. She is going to participate in making Kirk smarter. We're going to test. We're going to know whether or not Sylvia was a loving wife and made you smarter by this time next week, aren't we?
If it don't work, I'll just keep trying.
Exactly.
That was my answer with Leah. So constantly said, you chose to marry me because you thought I was smart. and now you know that you're responsible for making me smart.
There you go.
Yep.
I have a puzzle for you to do, Kirk. We'll have a special puzzle for you.
Okay, sounds like fun. All right, well, gentlemen, thank you. It's been wonderful. We've gone over 3 hours, but what the heck? It seems like 15 minutes.
It's just family.
Yeah, it's just family and talking it through. So all of you out there who are listening, who are contributing on the various YouTube channels, thank you for doing so. Thank you for being part of this family. Thank you for so many of you out there that are contributing. And we're seeing, lives change. Like you look at someone like Matt with Cats and how he is just blossoming at this point. It's just and Jake growing up in this and making a contribution, and it just goes. Joe doing this. He complimented Mary the other day for what she had contributed. And the first thing she said, "Yeah, I did a lot of work on it. It's all true, but I wasn't the only one." And I want you to mention all the work that Kevin did and Mariah did on this as well, and taking Kirkian from analog to digital.
There you go. Someone like Shannon.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And look at Shannon, somebody that has visited everybody and come here and been glue that brought everybody together.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how Leah has blossomed over this last year and a half when she's finally been released from the burden of the bitchy women that were so derogatory to her and smothered her. That's why that one little video snippet, they tried to bring me down, but I survived, and so can you. I survived and thrived, and so can you. So it is, it's truly amazing. And occasionally, and I know a lot of people just work quietly behind the scenes, but I'll look at something and say, "Well, that's really beautiful." I said, "Well, I didn't do it. That was done by so-and-so." And it's just one name after another, and relationship, and so much being done behind the scenes. And it's beautiful. You look at, just the details that we're sharing and producing and building. Man, if I were I'd be very, very impressed. I'd be very pleased, very impressed, and say, "Yeah, I'm happy that is going to be our home."
Yeah. Hallelujah.
Yeah. Yeah, hallelujah. Well, you turned blue there, Kirk. So it's probably time for us to.
Yeah. And on that note,
we'll say good night. Good night, everyone. Thank you
good night,
so much for Rich
Shalom.
and your contribution. Good night, everyone. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch Yah on our next podcast.